Yo, what's up? Hey, welcome to Talking Sim tonight. I am flying solo in the studio tonight, but I have invited a couple of guests to join me today because I wanted to do another Destiny 2 lore stream. Kind of, I guess. I'm not as good at it as some of the other people, but I think we have ideas worth discussing. Um, so here we are. There was a new patch today that launched some new content. Oh god. Where was I? Um, right, new content today. Some fairly big ones. What is going on in the world of Destiny 2? Turns out quite a lot. I've played through some of it, and I'm excited to talk a bit about it. Um, and we'll try to investigate a little bit, or at least talk about some of the interesting things that Bungie is starting to do with this game. Now that it's reached kind of a mechanical level of maturity, I feel that it's finally gotten to a point where what was a very sparse feeling game mechanically now has enough meat on its decent bones to start doing some interesting stuff by playing with its mechanics. I am turned up on the board, so perhaps adjust your volume. I don't know. It's pinned on the board, so well, not pinned, but uh, but I was going to have Bruno in chat, not Bruno again. Now that I've unmuted myself in Discord, how's it going, Bruno?
Oh, it's going good. It's going good. It's going interesting
Yeah. Uh,
in Destiny. Things are happening.
have you completed the loyalty quest yet?
I have completed the Allegiance quest. Yes. I don't know if you have.
I have as well. So, yeah, the fallout of that is uh, at both less dramatic than I was expecting and uh, kind of interesting as well.
It felt a lot like first half of the season, right? It's kind of like Dabo setting,
Yes, exactly.
putting up some conflicts.
I was
It's
kind of
kind of interesting.
I was kind of expecting it to be a showdown, and as it turns out, what it is, as you say, pieces being moved on the chessboard, and us discovering that we might not be the chess piece that we thought we were, which is always humbling. But let's get into the game and start playing around a bit because, as always, having lots of in-game stuff is neat, but if it's not in the game, doesn't exist, right? It's the
Yeah.
Overwatch problem.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
oh, Rainbow Phoenix. If you're looking for a place in IRL to read the game lore, uh, I suggest Ishtar Collective. I'm not sure what its actual URL is, but
I can get it on chat in a sec.
yeah, Ishtar Collective is quite nice because they don't publish anything that has been data mined. They only publish stuff that has become available in game. So it's harder to spoil yourself from it. So
But you can see the lore books without necessarily having to go grab everything in game that unlocks them.
mhm.
There's obviously like lore text associated with like items that are random drops, so you might not have access to that in game.
Right. Um, actually, one of the things I wanted to talk about tonight was something in the Allegiance quest that struck me as running kind of counter to a lot of the way lore or story, because we need to separate lore from story here. The way the story played out um, in a way that kind of defied the way Bungie has done it so far, and that is you get a mission from Drifter, or sorry, you get a mission at some point to go and infiltrate the Derelict, which is the Drifter's ship.
Yeah, I thought that part was really interesting because it was like just completely different from how normally you get delivered this stuff.
Yes. Well, what I really enjoyed is that when you go to the Drifter's ship to like dig up dirt on him, right, for this detective warlock who's giving you missions, if you choose the Vanguard half of the quest, and I probably should actually just be doing this on a character. You know what? I think I'm going to hop onto my Hunter and do the Drifter's side of this, because I think that might be interesting.
Actually, yeah, I
Or-
will join you in that.
'Cause
We could
there's-
also do Thorn. That's the other
yes,
thing.
because there's kind of three things going on right now that I want to talk about. And in addition to Bruno, not Bruno again, GCU, of course, I Still Love You from chat, is currently on her way. She was stuck in traffic, but should be here when she gets here. And I wanted to talk with her a bit about one of the new lore books that deals with the faction, the entities, the alien intelligence represented by the Nine.
Yeah, GCU is like the real like lore expert
Yeah,
out of
she
the
has,
three of
like-
us.
She has some kind of flawless retention, like just
Of all this stuff, yeah.
Yeah, like she reads it once and internalizes it and analyzes
Yeah,
it.
mind
so
like a steel
spectacular.
trap.
I'm not sure if I actually want to go through the entire quest line again, but I did want to talk a bit about just that the thing where you were digging up dirt on the Drifter. You find the tapes that he's left for you, and they work very much like Year One scannables in that you find them, you interact with them, the Drifter record you listen to this recording that the Drifter has left for you, and it's gone.
Well, the interesting thing is that it's a recording that the Drifter has left for quote unquote you, but if you do the Vanguard version of the quest, it's the idea that the Drifter has taken another Guardian, much like yourself, as his protege, right?
Yes, yes. So it's
And
being
you're sort
left
of
for the
spying on that relationship.
yes, which is interesting. But I just like the way that they don't go into your collections at all. You don't get a transcription of them. You don't get a lore book.
Yeah.
And that gives them what William Gibson called a very dreamlike quality, right? Where before the advent of William Gibson wrote a book called, or not a book, an essay, an article called Dead Man Sings. That was about the experience of listening to Elvis on a record player for the first time after he had died. And what an utterly alien experience that would be for anyone living even like 100 years ago or 150 years ago, say.
I mean, 100 years ago when Gibson wrote it, but more like 120 now. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And he said that somebody contemporaneously listening to a Beethoven symphony would hear it maybe once in their life.
Yeah.
But now we can listen to it whenever we want. But for them, it was something that happened and then ended and then took on a dreamlike quality. And I just enjoyed that. That's a deliberate choice that Bungie has made here, to make those recordings something that you hear once and are gone.
Right, like Bungie has like slowly accumulated a bunch of like narrative design tools that they've given themselves between the lore books and voiceover in missions and the scannables and all those things, and it's really interesting to see how they deploy each one of those tools to tell different parts of the story.
Yes, because scannables, which was the way that they kind of tried to integrate story into the game in Year One in this very like bare bones, pared down way, which I didn't find particularly successful or interesting.
It's
or
fundamentally audio logs, but in a way that doesn't feel contrived. That's like the one leg up that they have.
Okay, yes, that is accurate, because what you're doing is you're finding objects in the world and your ghost scans them and then comments on them. And they still use that. Only now they are like, they're the scannable quests that you get given in the Dreaming City by the Techians, who will direct you to a place You go, you stand in the place, you interact with the thing, and the Techian tells you what it is. And actually, we can go and do that. But so, anyway, back to a much earlier fork in the conversation. There are three things that I wanted to, or might have been able to look at tonight. One is this new lore book called Dust, and if you saw our...
Hello.
Hey GCU, welcome.
Hello,
Say-
GCU.
I'm here. Sorry.
Don't even worry about it.
It's terrible weather here, and there is one road down from the mountain, and someone had crashed many cars on it.
Yikes. Well,
So,
I'm glad you made it
yeah.
home safe. Please
Yep.
drive safe. We can always...
Yeah. If it's the same kind of weather tomorrow, I'm just not gonna go outside, let alone to work.
That's-
It's not. No.
That's sensible.
It's not worth it. So what are we talking about?
Well, there are three kind of new lore things. We have
Right.
Dust, the lore book Dust, which deals with the Nine. And even that name has a couple of different associations that you can make with it. And I know you've done one of your own streams on this, GCU Streams from Home,
Yeah.
at her
Oh my god.
username. It was great. It was wonderfully in depth, and I thought it really played to your like professional strengths.
Yeah, I think I talked for like 2.5 hours. Like, I had to stream because I needed to yell, like, maybe just into the void, but I needed to tell someone.
Then we also have the new lore book with the Warlock Honor,
Right.
which deals with the loyalty. What we're
I
calling the
am
loyalty
kind
or
of-
allegiance quest.
I'm kind of pissed off about the Allegiance quests, TBH. I still honestly do not know what to do.
Spoilers? We are not the piece on the chessboard that we think we are.
I just refuse to make a choice now about my actions later, if that makes any sense. Like, it makes sense to me that the Drifter would be like, yo, I got a thing in the works, but before I tell you, you gotta tell me in or out. Because, like, if he's doing something
Right.
like a heist or whatever, that makes sense. That he's not gonna just tell anyone.
Right. Well, and we
But-
also kind of had that interaction with Shin Malphur earlier with the Last Word quest,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
Shin Malphur tells us, like, Shin Malphur is kind of like, he sounds like Batman, and he's
Yeah.
like, he's the renegade hunter who hunts fallen guardians, and he tells us fundamentally he's decided to trust us on whatever we do. He's going to trust us.
Yeah, but like, I'm not comfortable making a decision now and pledging to do certain actions later unconditionally. Like,
Yeah.
Guardians are not soldiers. We don't take orders.
No, and I actually felt that was one of the huge strengths that Forsaken decided to lean into, was that
Yeah.
it gave us a much more mythical or Arthurian feel to our character than the previous, like, Call of Duty, Halo.
Yeah, like go
super
and
soldier.
do the thing. But like,
Yeah, a lot
the
of the
Traveler doesn't force you to do anything. From the very beginning, I mean, some of the Risen chose to be warlords. The Traveler didn't interfere. You are given this gift of power and light, and you are supposed to do what you think is right with it.
Right.
And I feel like just blanket saying, "Oh, I'm on your side. Give me orders." Like, that's bullshit. I'm not gonna. If you give me, okay, like if I'd listened to the Vanguard, we never would have dug up Rasputin. If the Vanguard
Right.
gives me a bullshit order, I'm not gonna do it.
Right.
And so the way that I really wish that we had more mechanical information and more mechanical choice in the game, because I don't know where the button is to press that's like, I will consider it,
well,
but I refuse to lock myself into future choices without knowing what they are.
I mean, I think that's a lot of the. I think you're absolutely correct there in that. Also, Bungie has made this game where those choices, almost certainly can't have huge consequences yet, because I don't think the game supports them. Right? I don't think that Bungie can actually develop Destiny 2 in a way that suddenly splits it into Horde versus Alliance.
Right, but
Yeah.
there is like content that you are or are not able to access.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it kind of remains to be seen like how widespread the effect is. It's unlikely that it's going to be like a super significant thing because that creates a huge it creates a huge content depth when you decide to like make big branching things happen in a game like Destiny.
Right, right.
Right.
Because obviously, this is a AAA game; things are very expensive. So my expectation would definitely be that it's very possible that the two branches of the story converge. Maybe you get different versions of the same story. Maybe you get different
I would absolutely believe
rewards.
that. Having only knowing what I know about the Allegiance quest and how it is very symmetrical across across both sides.
I'm also. I'd also
like-
like to point out I'm very annoyed that they say it's a Vanguard allegiance, but it is not Vanguard. It is
No.
the Praxic Order.
Yes.
I would 100% side with like Ikora and Zavala,
Yes.
but I think that the Praxic Order is a little bit off the rocker.
I agree, and actually, I would say that it's even less about the Praxic Order and more about this, as you said earlier, the Drifter saying, "Are you in or out?"
Yeah.
And fundamentally, when it comes to the Drifter, I feel the best case scenario we have is the Drifter actually knows what he's doing and is in control of this machine that he's assembled. And I don't know that I trust him.
Yeah, I do not know. Like, I think the Drifter may think that he is smarter than he actually is because, like, this is fooling around with the Taken and, like, experimenting with the Taken and the power therein is what claimed the rest of the Queen's Techians.
Right,
Like,
yeah.
Ilyn and her group, like, that's why they're gone.
Yes, there
And these
are
are,
three
like-
Techians left.
Yeah, that's why these people, these space witches who are thousands of years old, got wrecked by
Yes.
Like
fooling
thousands
around
of
with
years
the
old.
same power. I don't necessarily trust one garbage man in a garbage ship to have this shit on lockdown.
Yeah.
It's pretty likely that among the Queen Stackians, there would have been like people from the original
Yeah,
like generation of distributary awoken, which would make them not just like older than the Drifter, but like older than human civilization as it exists
right.
in
Yeah.
the city.
yeah. So, I mean, like, I think the Praxic Order is out of line. Like, they're even saying, like, hey, maybe we even need to put, like, Ikora and Zavala in, like, wizard jail. Which, no.
Yeah,
I think
no.
the Praxics are completely out of line. But I
let-
also don't want to just be like, yeah, I'm in. What are we stealing?
Well, let's talk a bit about that. Like, who are the Praxic Order of Warlocks? Okay, the Praxic
They're-
Order is one of 3 schools of warlocks, branches, clubhouses of warlocks in the city, factions, approaches, or as I'm sure the Praxics would say, praxes. And in order to
This
discuss
is an
who
odd
the,
name.
well, what does the word mean? What is the word praxic? It is the form
I
of the
don't
word
actually know
praxis.
It
is
means
actually,
relative to praxis.
specifically.
yeah. Well, Bruno, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, I mean, praxis, actually. As a writer, like, my immediate instinct is, like, just look the word up.
Oh yeah,
'Cause-
yeah, because it gives
Yeah.
a better
Yeah.
definition than
Like, I
you
have
can
a
describe.
fuzzy
Praxic
idea.
does not
but-
exist in the dictionary, but obviously praxis means, like, action, like, it means practice.
Right,
It
it
means
means to
doing.
Yes, it means you can have a philosophy, but you actually have to put it into action.
Yeah.
Right. That for them to take it on as their name implies that their philosophy is to do.
It's to put learning into action.
Exactly.
Like
A lot of the other
Bungie
warlocks.
never named some of the stuff Bungie might write sounds like technobabble or just like cool names. Bungie
No,
is
everything is very like
deliberate.
thought out.
It's very deliberate about the words they use and the names they use. So like Praxic Order, it doesn't seem like it has a moral connotation in the name.
Well, I'm not sure it's a moral stance, but it is absolutely, by definition, an ethos. Right? And so we can get a sense of what the Praxics are by looking at some of the lore items, because this is the way that Bungie has decided to integrate this into the game.
Yeah.
Right?
In
So
a
if you
lot of
look
ways, like the Praxics and Honor particularly, I kind of portrayed as sort of like internal affairs for Guardians.
Right, because
Like,
their belief is that they police use of the darkness. They see themselves as kind of like they see their responsibility as being antithetical to the existence of the darkness, which is what almost extinguished humanity during the fall. And they structure their organization and their behavior in such a way to oppose it when it turns up. The Praxics feel that I can't emphasize this enough. Their name being the Praxic Order, like they have decided to name themselves after the act of doing, right? The other
The act
warlock
of applying learning.
Yes. Look, the other warlock orders talk a lot about like their libraries and their research and their meditations and their inquiries into the behavior of light and darkness. And the Praxics believe in all of that, but they believe that it has to be put into effect to be meaningful. So if you look at some of the exotics that are associated with them, like the Wings of Sacred Dawn, let's have a look at this lore tab, right? The Parable of the Venging Fires, interpreted by Pujari. A young warlock travels to her mentor seeking the truth of the Praxic fire. A wildfire rages in a valley nearby. Her mentor points to the billowing smoke, saying, "This is the Praxic fire. Go and learn what you can." And the student returns to her teacher, saying, "Master, the fire does not act. Ask, the fire acts. That is the truth." Her mentor laughs, and the flames leave the sky from the valley and surround the teacher, and the wind blows the smoke away. The old warlock, now wreathed in flame with great outstretched wings, says, "The heart of the Praxic fire is the warlock. Without the warlock, the fire does not ask or act. Be the fire or be the smoke on the wind." The cowering student stands, her palms closing into fists. Right, they
Yeah.
the Praxic
That's
Order,
always
and
kind of
I should point this out, associate themselves strongly with solar energy and flame.
Yeah. Cleansing fire, etc.
Yeah, and I think that lends itself quite easily to an
I
interpretation.
find
of
that
them as
last
fanatics.
line really interesting. That the hands closing into fists, because obviously the way warlocks punch in this game is that they do open palm slams.
Oh yeah. So like the students' palms closing into fists, right? Like that's
So
It's very
it's almost like
passionate,
the
right?
Praxics are like the least warlock of warlocks, right? They're almost like Titan-esque warlocks.
It's also worth noting that the other major place we have the Praxics, or the Praxic fire mentioned in game right now is the Savathun Song Strike.
right
Where we're talking to a guardian. Spoilers for the Savathun Song Strike, but in the course of it, we discover a hive ritual under the Titan arcology in which wizards, probably Savathun's wizards, are tearing the light out of guardians and storing it in crystals. And you are able to use the light stored in those crystals to destroy the things that the wizards are making with them. And you talk on the radio with like the last survivor of the original fire team and say, okay, we've got an idea, we can disrupt the ritual, but oh crap, we don't have another one of those crystals of light. And the guardian is like, not yet, you don't, and basically turns herself into a crystal so that you can kill Savathun Song, which is this gigantic shrieker. and one of the lines of dialogue that you will get, the Guardian's name is Takeo 3. One of the lines of dialogue that you can get from Takeo 3, yeah, are you looking up the lore tab on Duty Bound?
Yes.
Perfect. Is her saying, is your ghost being like, what are you gonna do? And Takeo 3 says, embrace the praxic fire.
Right.
Like, she's gonna act.
Mm-hmm.
Right, even if it consumes her. Is
Yeah.
the joke
Yes,
here.
that she has a course of action. And I think the Praxic Fire lends itself to a lot of different interpretations, where some of them are very fanatical, right? And I think Honor, the character that we decide to trust in the loyalty quest, falls definitely more on like the Old West sheriff side of things, right? Where she's quite ruthless and quite mistrustful of people. But I think it also lends itself to what you could almost call a Taoist interpretation of things, where Takeo has found herself in a situation where her abilities allow her to do a thing. And so that implies that that is a thing that she would
Needs to
do.
be done.
Yes. Like
Yeah.
that you know, you're always falling towards your destiny.
Yeah. And I think it's
Right.
interesting to sort of observe like the way that Destiny 2 plays a lot with genre, because Honor is all these like sort of mystical and mythical things in being a Praxic member. But if you read her entries, especially like the latter entries where it's like a third person perspective view of what her life is like, it's very much leaning on sort of police procedural genre stuff.
Mhm.
Right? Like she's got this slate that is the Cormorant seal that is obviously like a proxy for a badge.
Right.
Right, where she like at one point she commandeers a train, like, and it explicitly says, you can get people to do whatever you want if you show them a Cormorant seal, because
Right. Actually,
like this idea of she's like a long-suffering cop gets, yeah, she is right.
Mhm.
I kind of keep imagining like Kara being like, "You're off the case."
yeah, where she's
You're off the case, Honor.
she's a loose cannon, right? Like
Yeah.
Yeah,
at
exactly.
one point the drifter says that like Honor busted up a deal that a bunch of Dredgens were trying to do in the city. And,
Exactly.
Honor wiped out, like, crumbled a city block in the ensuing gunfight, and not everyone made it out, right? And that's very, like, on one hand, you're like, that sounds real bad, and on the other hand, like, Dirty Harry continues to chew sandwich. Right? Like, it's
Right.
very, very dependent on your perspective.
You know, now that I think
Also,
about
can
it,
you please appreciate the sheer beauty of my ship?
The
From
brick?
Roman?
oh, the horseshoe crab.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's something.
the brick.
I wonder if there's a bit of another meaning in praxic order, in meaning like applying what you've learned, in that
Right. That
we
it's
have learned that if there is no policing, if there's no force that curbs guardians, you end up with risen warlords and Dredgen Yor.
right.
Right. Do you want Dredgen Yor? Because that's how you get
Yeah,
Dredgen.
that's how you get Dredgens.
Yeah, it definitely seems to be that Guardians weren't necessarily selected for their moral clarity.
Yeah.
I
Or
mean, it is
maybe
completely-
they were and they made different choices. Like, the Traveler doesn't constrain your choices.
I just want to have
Right.
a look here because
It is completely unclear like what the selection criteria for Guardians is, right? It's
Right.
just like ghosts themselves can't explain it. They just get this weird sense of like, oh yeah, this person should be revived.
right.
Yeah.
I just want to have a look here because I think the emblem that Zavala bears on his shoulder is the Cormorant seal.
Eh?
That the one on his like left shoulder is actually the symbol of the Crucible, I believe.
Yeah, it's
Is
the
it?
double-headed phoenix.
Yeah, it's the double-headed phoenix.
Yeah.
Because he definitely does
If you
have...
look at the wing theorem bond, it has the same insignia. You should be
Right.
able to look at it in collections.
Yeah. If you actually look at if you want to see the Cormorant seal, I'm pretty sure it's the one in the new cosmetic bond from this season.
Oh, the bond. Well, I think I have that.
No, this is... if you look at Destiny 1 stuff, like the Honor of Cormorant's mark.
Factions.
The seal of the Twin Eagle is the Warlock bond that also bears the Cormorant seal.
Interesting.
There isn't actually anything on the bond. That's annoying.
But if you look up Honor of Cormorant from Destiny 1, then you'll actually see this. What we're talking about.
I'm checking the Eververse armor. I can't find it. There's a real classy trench coat. Actually.
Oh yeah,
the duster of the Cormorant blade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What Bruno's wearing.
Yeah, it's what I've got.
It is very grizzled cop.
Yeah.
I like it.
Right, it's got a very practical, like.
It's
you could say
unornamented.
practical. It is. It's
Haha.
yeah. It is also like kind of weathered. You've got the little messenger bag on the side.
The hem is ragged and.
Yeah,
But like,
it's like it's put together but not ornamented.
right. So this is the Praxic Order's armor set,
Yeah,
which
and
is,
this like their
an armor set that is available this season. But this is what Praxic Warlocks tend to wear.
Apparently.
yeah, and they get described in various lore tabs like wearing black dusters, which
Huh.
presumably are these dusters.
Very.
So
John
there's like a cop aesthetic, a cowboy aesthetic. And part of what's interesting about Destiny is like the mashing up of all these sort of genres, right? In a lot of ways, Destiny is Dungeons and Dragons, but with guns instead of swords.
So
Yes.
the thing is, I really didn't get a vibe from Honor's messages of the sort of grizzled, dirty cop kind of, or like dirty, hairy kind of cop thing, because I feel like usually those kinds of characters have more of a nuanced approach to like sometimes you gotta break the rules to protect the rules or stuff like that. And Honor is very cut and dry in her messages.
Well, I
She's
think
like-
she's also.
She's even like harshing on the 9, and I'm like, really? The 9?
Well, I mean,
The-
until
the
very
message that,
recently,
like-
we don't know what the 9 are, right? Like
I
until
mean-
last week.
Yeah, but the 9 have never been. She's like pointing this out as evidence that the Drifter is evil, and it's like, no, the 9 are just like, they're neutral. They've never really done anything that could be considered aggressive or in any way allied with darkness. So, like, why are you saying that the Drifter's
So this is
problematic because
a
of
little wee
that?
bit of a spoiler, but the 9 are kind of like responsible for hiding Ghoul's fleet from the
Okay,
Vanguard.
yes, but
So
as it
they did
turns out,
kind of cause like millions of casualties during the Red War.
right, but they're not like explicitly aligned with darkness. Like, I don't think that's a strike against the Drifter that he's talked to the 9, but Honor seems to think that it's like this big crime.
Right. I mean, and I share a lot of that skepticism of Honor and the Praxic Order. I think that I agree that she comes across as quite inflexible and quite
Yeah.
dogmatic.
Counterpoint: the Drifter is sketchy as fuck, and
Yes.
it only takes 5 seconds to notice.
He's a garbage man, and I would not like to get into any car he's driving.
And-
The Drifter would never drive a car. It's always going to be either a panel van or a motorcycle with him.
Yeah, no, I would not get into any panel van the Drifter is driving. So yeah,
well,
they've already had this.
what do we want to work on tonight? Because there are a couple of places we can kind of like get into things. My vote is to start with Thorn.
Yeah, I would go for Thorn. I haven't done Thorn yet, and I think Thorn is
I
probably
have no idea.
Well,
Juiciest-
let's go start it off then.
I know where we pick up the thread of
Yes.
Thorn, but I will keep it like relatively
Well,
Oh,
I'll-
you do know it as well. Okay.
Yeah, I'll launch us there. Do you just want to know where it is, GCU?
No, I mean I heard about it, but like I've honestly been relatively uninterested in the Thorn quest line. I don't know why, but the whole Shin Malfur, Jaren Ward, Dredgen York story never really grabbed me. Like
Really?
in this universe of such fascinating and exotic and amazing things, these two dudes who have beef just completely fails to engage me.
Really?
Yeah, I've never cared about all the drama about it. I've never cared about the guns either, because they seem to mostly be PvP weapons, and I hate PvP because I'm super bad at it.
Okay, well, we can do something else then.
No, I'm totally fine. I'm totally fine with doing the quest. If
Okay.
only because I need powerful gear. I'm just saying, like, something about that storyline never really grabbed me. I don't think it. For some reason, it doesn't dive well with the rest of the Destiny universe to me.
Really? Okay.
I kind of get that because like it is one of those things with a big franchise that it's kind of too many things to too many people. And one thing that kind of interests me about this whole quest is that like it is fundamentally a story of like a couple of people having beef, and it's a story about guardians like having fights to the death. And those are things that are not easy or really possible to represent in Destiny.
Right.
Right?
But
Yeah.
I also feel that it ties in quite fundamentally. Like, it's not just two guardians having beef. It is one guardian who. Well, maybe it is just two
Fell to the
guardians
dark
having
side.
beef. Right, but it's,
Yeah,
it's
I
also
mean,
a fall story and about the seductiveness of evil in the world.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I
And
get
it-
that with Dredge and
it's also
Yor
like-
and everything, but it's not
There-
a story that ever got my attention beyond that, if that makes any sense. Like, oh, okay, there was this guy, Dredge and Yor, he was a great guardian, but then, you know, evil whispers and some guardians fall to it. Like, okay, cool. That's not as, like, I get it. It's an interesting moral and an interesting,
I mean, I think
what's
that
the right
the
word?
Dredge and Your story kind of raises a lot of questions about like what exactly are guardians and
But,
what
I
exactly
mean-
does it mean to be a good guardian and
We've already had that question raised, like in Iron Banner,
sure.
if nothing else. Like the whole idea that the first Guardians were warlords or almost like crazed killers who didn't understand what was happening to them and why they had these powers. Like it's obvious from the start and from everything Saladin said that like there's no.
So I think I kind of want to point it out
them.
while we're here, because it might not be clear to people watching. There is no in-game prompt that tells us to come here. We kind of know because we looked it up or
Right.
figure out on our own. But like, this has been added to the game with no warning or any sort of
Any sort of
Like-
prompt.
prompt or indication.
Although,
And the only
there
and the
is-
clue that you get to come here is in one of the lore books
yes.
from Honor.
Yes, if you do the Vanguard loyalty half of the quest, you will get a hint in her lore book in its final chapter that something happened up here that she doesn't really describe. But here we are. It's a guardian camp that.
Wait, where'd you guys go?
Oh, we're up here. Sorry.
Hang on. I have the emote for this.
Hello.
GCO.
Oh,
Back there.
all right, not bad.
This was added like in the last patch. This place did not exist previously.
So, to be fair, they did tell us the Thorn Quest was coming today.
Yes, and would be on
Yes.
Earth somewhere, but it has the
Okay,
greatest
so-
prompt.
wow, what happened here?
The Praxic Warlock showed up.
This is like regular city stuff.
I mean, the
Are
Praxic
these people
Warlock
camping out here?
Honor. No, these were. I'm
These were
falling down a
Dredgens.
bit. These were Dredgens. These were like followers of your Rogue Warlock.
Is there any way to tell
Like
that
that.
just from the campsite?
No, but we
No.
know what happened here because it's in the lore book. It's
No, I
the-
know. I'm just curious about the way that they've dressed this set.
Yeah,
That we've got.
it is. 'Cause, like, this is
we've
one
got at
also-
least one dead person.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that this is like a generic Dead Guardian asset
Yeah.
from the Red War.
Hmm.
You can see the like
Oh, here's
city
another-
emergency tenting stuff. This stuff
Yeah.
like shows up in the Red War campaign missions.
Yeah, and like stuff with this symbol that's obviously taken from the city.
Yeah.
So these
And
are
this is-
these are city guardians who were camped out here.
Right.
What happened here was, of course, that like from the lore tab is like Shin Malphur had captured a bunch of like followers of Yor and was about to,
Okay,
destroy them.
Despite the burn damage, you recognize this weapon as a Thorn, a legendary weapon capable of severing guardians from the light. The Shadows of Yor, followers of an infamous guardian killer, are well known for carrying thorns. This one is broken, but you think it may be possible to fix it. A reputable and discreet gunsmith would know where to start.
I love how
What if
Banshee.
I don't want to fix it?
Right? Yeah.
Like, F this gun. It seems bad. Like, leave it alone.
That's another weird thing about like the ludonarrative dissonance here, which is that like there is no button to say actually fuck the weapons of sorrow. I don't want anything with this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, first of all, apparently there are more thorns. So you don't really need to fix this one. You could just get one.
Right. There's also this thing that like there's a little bit of a disconnect because I'm pretty sure that like in D1 the exotic weapons were supposed to be unique.
Oh, like there was only one of them.
Yeah.
And now
and of course,
they've
That
decided
doesn't
that.
really work.
Yeah.
they decided that they're not. Yeah. Like for example, it's explicitly stated that like by now everybody and their grandmother has amalfeasance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And like Twilight Avalon brings up the point that like you can choose not to do the quest, and that is true.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that we talk about in design, and like for context, I'm a narrative designer. I do this kind of work for video games. Is the idea of affordance, right? The idea of like what are the options that you offer? What are the things that you describe as possible to the player, right? The fact that there's not even like a button to like discard this quest. I don't think.
Can you
Like
discard?
I literally cannot. Yeah, I cannot get rid of it. Like,
No,
the affordances that I'm given here are like go get Thorn.
Actually, you can't press F.
I can now.
Yeah, you cannot pay
you
response
can?
to this quest.
Once you've started the quest, the essence you can abandon it,
Okay.
Oh, okay.
but you
But
can't
so
throw away the
here's-
melted
here's-
punk.
Here's the thing. There's no way to tell the game the difference between I'm choosing not to do this quest or I just haven't gotten around to it.
Right.
Yeah.
I really wish there were a way to say, no, I choose not to.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, what does that tell us about what this quest is, right? Like,
I mean, what it
if we
tells
take
us
it as read, if we say that
I keep
has an
carving up the
in-universe
wall.
justification, right? You come to this place, you find all these murdered guardians, you sift through, I had already done this part, but the tooltip it gives you here is E, sift through the ashes, which is great, right?
Yeah.
And once you've done
They-
that, you find this thing, and you can't put it down.
That's actually like another
I mean, yeah, that's true.
little bit of narrative design is these like little bits of interstitial text, like saying sift through the ashes instead of just saying interact. That is also like a little tidbit of story, right?
Yes.
And
yeah.
it's the sort of tool that like Bungie has gotten way more adept at deploying lately.
Yeah.
Actually, I wonder if there's something else from the story here, because that story, as someone pointed out, Shin Malphur is he's got the Guardians tied
the
up.
golden, yeah.
He's got their ghosts restrained, and it mentions that there's a scorched shadow on the wall.
Yeah.
Oh, the thing
Yeah.
where he killed Callum,
Yeah, and it's right here.
vaporized that guy. Oh.
That's what a
Yeah.
golden gun leaves behind.
Oh shit! Yeah, that's the same as the shadow we saw in the Malfeasance quest.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Just turned a guy into soot on the wall. Like, damn,
Yep.
pretty hardcore. Like, I realized that
Is there a broken
it's
ghost?
true that there's the implication in the stories of Dredge and Yor and like pre-fall and sort of during his fall, that he hears whispers and is somewhat compelled or seduced by the artifacts that he grafts onto his gun, the rose, to make it thorn. So there is a little bit, you could say that like you pick up this artifact and like maybe you're a little bit compelled.
Right.
But honestly, other than the gameplay reason of getting Thorn, which is a legit reason game-wise, I don't see any reason why my Guardian would do any of this.
Right, and that's again, I keep like using the term ludonarrative dissonance that people hate to hear, but that's like a very literal case of exactly this.
Yeah, like if I, as a character, came upon this site, I'd be like, wow, this dude's got fucked up. And then I'd poke around and find the melted thorn and be like, oh, they were dredgens. Ha, you got wrecked, and leave. Like,
And at the same time, like the thing about this dissonance is that, to me, like the way that story resolves for something like Destiny 2, which kind of has to be what it has to be for, you know, all sort of like MMO-ish reasons, is that the experience that you have in the game is not synonymous with the story as much as it is a prism through which to view the story.
Okay.
One of the things that makes me like Destiny 2 is that they do actually manage to fold a lot of player actions and the structure of the game into the lore. Like the thing that first engaged me about Destiny and about its lore was that the sorry, English words are failing me. It was the idea that the respawns in game are an inherent and very important part of your character and your narrative. Like you are this chosen immortal. And that's funny because it means that all the dumb shit MMO players do in game because it's a game is canon. But it also means that like I'm the lore isn't talking about these guardians that I don't recognize as me and players, like this separate group of people that are in the lore. I recognize when I read the lore people like Mike that are doing things that I do in the game and the way and playing the game as it were.
Right. That
and stuff like the Crucible, like being an in-universe thing.
Yeah, exactly. So when I run into something in Destiny where you do get that ludonarrative dissonance, the game is so good at deleting that and a lot of other
I'm gonna take us back to the tower.
That it throws me even more.
I said this earlier on cam streams, but like for me, like this dissonance in Destiny, it's in some places, not everywhere, but in some places, it's a pleasing or an expressive dissonance, right? It's not.
Yeah,
there's a disconnect.
Tritone.
Yeah, it's a gameplay, it's a game design tritone, right? It's a place where it is you recognize the dissonance, but it has an effect. It's not like just an error or a failure. Because and like Twilight Avalon in chat is saying like that's more of a limitation of the game design rather than narrative, and yeah, but like game design is narrative.
Right.
Like the way you structure a game is part of how you're going to tell a story in that game. Those two things cannot be separated. In fact, like there was really no way to do narrative in a video game without doing design.
It may be that Destiny just wasn't. I've heard this mentioned by a couple people before, but that Destiny wasn't designed to deal with these kinds of choices. Like the game itself, the way that it's like coded and structured and everything, wasn't really made to be able to handle like branching storylines, and some guardians can come here and some can't. So in that case, it may be a limitation of game design, and I'm not gonna get on Bungie's back for not like rewriting their entire game engine, but I do wish it could handle them better.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some things where like, especially as we get into this year 2 stuff and those sort of content drops where the way the story is being delivered in ways that are more economical, because and to some degree I think that that's a smart decision, because it doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense for Bungie to be investing a ton of resources in creating these like huge big cinematics that are not super effective at telling the story, but at the same time are very like costly, right?
Right.
And I think it's led to a lot of like really creative little solutions of how to sort of communicate things to players.
Oh my god. Hadronic Essence, are you for real right now? Right after I say such nice things about Bungie meaning things with their names, I remember shit like Baryon Bows.
Right.
All bows are Baryon Bows. Oh.
I mean, maybe they're like specially baryonic.
Yeah. They're made. They have extra quarks.
No,
They're extra
not
quirky.
tetraquark trees.
They're particularly up.
I don't. Yeah, sorry, I'm out of words.
Do you still have that dialogue up, by the way?
No, I just
Oh,
closed
okay.
it. Oh, the one with Banshee, where
Yeah.
he's saying like,
Yeah, that dialogue
I
is
have
real.
to, I have to tell Ikora about this. Like, hell, I'd tell Ikora about this if I had an option to.
Well,
Yeah.
just the fact that
And-
you took it to Banshee because Banshee is discreet. Banshee isn't discreet. Banshee,
He's just going to forget.
yeah.
Yeah,
and
Banshee
point
has
of fact,
memory issues.
In point of fact, it says, and before Banshee even turns away from you, he's forgotten what he's doing.
And that's kind of a really interesting thing, because,
Yeah.
you were already doing some fucked up shit to get this gun. Right? Like,
Don't
from the
take
start, you're sort of
advantage.
taking advantage of someone, right?
Yeah, that you are like this is elder abuse.
Yeah.
You took
It
to
is,
Banshee
it
because
is,
you knew
yeah.
he wouldn't remember any of it. Right? Banshie
And-
isn't discreet. He just
And,
Forgetful.
and it's sort of like, it's already kind of expressing, these are the kinds of things that, doing this will entail, right? It's already sort of expressing that kind of complicity that you have.
That you're gonna have to do some somewhat shady things if you want this gun. Like, I don't. What am I gonna do with Thorn? Shoot other Guardians? I don't have any Guardians I feel like severing from their light.
infuse it into something else, I guess.
Yeah, like, in practical gameplay terms, that's what I'm gonna do, is get Thorn so that I don't have a really annoying spot in my collections that will drive me insane. But in like narrative terms, my Guardian has no reason not to just throw
At the
this thing
same
away.
time, though, like, the idea of, I'm going to throw away Thorn, while that might be what makes sense for your conception of your character and what you kind of are inclined to do, again, getting into that question of affordances, you never really want to give the player the option to, like, refuse the call and be like, nah, I'm done. You kind of do want to push people towards doing the stupid shit,
I
right?
mean,
Right.
true, but if they're going to make such a big deal this season about like picking a side,
Oh, for
It's-
sure.
kind of annoying that they don't give you the option to refuse the evil death gun.
That is true. It does kind of like doesn't bear with the whole idea, and it kind of runs into this problem that this game has, and that pretty much every MMO and a lot of RPGs have, where like you're kind of everything and involved in all things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you're sort of locked to this one viewpoint character. Every story has just sort of revolve around this person.
Like,
The one thing though is that like you've played Fallen London, or at least Sunless Sea, right? this
I've
year?
played Sunless Sea, yeah.
Yeah, and Cameron hasn't. But like one thing about those games
I
is
even
that
survived once.
is that they're like constantly trying to get you to commit cannibalism.
Oh yeah! Oh
Like-
my god! I totally did that by accident too. Oh,
Like it's
so awkward.
they're just constantly right, because I mean in
No,
Sunless Sea
back it up. Sorry, what was that last part?
Oh yeah, no, the game just like it's very easy to accidentally become a cannibal in Sunless Sea.
yeah, it's like
You take enough food from strangers and it's gonna happen eventually.
there's also the thing
In
where
my
like
case, it was the Chapel of Lights, because like it's a free supplies stopover on
yeah,
the
it's a
way
free
back.
meal. You're not gonna say
Yeah,
no
it's
to
a,
a free
it's
meal.
a free meal on the way back from Irem, and like I'm broke. I'm not gonna turn down extra supplies. Like I need to get to Mount Palmerston so I can coal up for cheap. And Chapel of Lights is like right along the way. So like obviously I stop at Chapel of Lights and they feed me, and then like
Yeah,
do
and
that,
it
like,
sounds like a nice
10
place.
or 15. Yeah, like they're a little weird, but they seem to be some kind of religious thing, and maybe part of the religious thing is feeding people. So then you
It
do
is.
it like 10 or
It
15
is.
times, and then eventually you go to the
They're-
chapel
they're-
and you
they're
eat the
religious-
food, and a little thing pops up that's like, you have 1 point in like being a cannibal. I'm
Yeah,
like,
the religion
oh,
is all
God
about
dang
serving
it.
man.
Yeah, they're all about serving man. And it's
And
like,
there's a
Dang
little
it.
counterpart. You mentioned the Chapel of Lights in Sunless Skies. There's a little counterpart to that where like you can go to the Kingdom of the Dead.
oh,
And
I mean,
you can
do you mean the
sit-
Elder Continent? Yeah. Like I
No,
got
no,
the-
in Skies, in Sunless Skies.
Oh, in Skies. Okay.
You can go to the Blue Kingdom, which is literally the Kingdom of the And
Yeah.
one thing that you can do there is you can stop by a group of dead people and like partake of their food, right?
Oh yeah, and it's
Yeah.
totally cannibal.
It's not cannibal, but if you try to leave, they will tell you, no, you have to like pay for that.
No.
and
you
and
have
it can
to-
be like you have to like restitute the food that you took from the dead. And so there's this constant design in those games of like trying to sort of push the player towards making decisions that will entangle them, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Not-
I mean,
not just
I get-
mechanically, but
I get the idea
narrative.
of like you make choices and you might not always know the consequences. What's really bothering me about the allegiance quests is that the way that it's framed, I feel like I'm going to make one choice now, and that's going to force me to make a bunch of choices later that more realistically I would be able to say no to. So, like, the first time, to return to cannibalism, I said out loud as a sentence. In Sunless Sea, like the first time I got a point in it, I did it accidentally. I didn't know that that was going to happen. Later on, I went to the Elder Continent, and because I had a point in it, I unlocked an event in Port Carnelian where basically there's a group of cannibals sitting down for dinner, and you can choose whether or not to sit with them.
Okay.
Like, I had that choice there, like, I can continue down this path, or I can be like, nope, one and out, I'm good, which is what I did. But I feel like making this allegiance quest choice now is going to force my character to make that choice later. And I don't like having that agency taken from me, especially when I have no
Right.
idea what these
You're-
choices are.
And this kind of highlights a problem with trying to introduce this kind of idea of choice in a game that has previously hitherto has not had any.
Yeah.
Right? This is the first time in Destiny that there's like any kind of branching in a quest line or in a story that I can think of. That creates this problem of like there's no mechanical expectation, right?
Right.
The game isn't expressing to you, can I back out? How do I get?
Should we?
Yeah, we're really not used to having any
While
choices.
while we're talking about this,
Do we want to jump into a Nightfall?
Yes.
No, here's a thought.
Mhm.
I want to talk about the 9. Let's do some reckoning. Let's wreck.
Let's wreck.
Let's wreck.
I could wreck. Okay.
Yeah, let's wreck it.
I could wreck.
Let me
Let's-
put
let's
on
get you-
let me put on my Phoenix Protocol.
Let me put on my reckoning pants.
Who wants to Okay.
Bring me my
Let's-
reckoning pants.
Bring me my reckoning pants. Let me put on my fire pants. What are the modifiers for today?
I
Um,
don't know.
Golly gee,
You
I
can,
don't remember.
Cameron, you should be able to check.
I suppose I could.
They are golly, it's Solar Singe.
It's
Oh,
yes,
Solar Singe, is it?
attrition, and grenadier.
Yeah.
Attrition. Oh, okay, right. Attrition is the oh man, my Phoenix Protocol with Taken repurposing is going to be fun in this. Let me get a hat with what hat do I want?
Suppose
Do I want
sleeper simulant?
my enhanced linear fusion targeting? Because of okay, why was the sleeper aim nerf necessary? That was not necessary, and it was not necessary to ding the mag. I'm so mad about that. Why are you hating on my gun? Why do you hate on all of Rasputin's guns? Just rude at this point.
Okay.
I
Reckoning.
think I have something with
Let-
precision
yeah,
targeting.
Let me put on my.
Yeah,
my
let me finish putting on my pants.
Begin now.
I should.
Oh,
probably
also I
get-
need to grab bounties from the Drifter.
Right.
Oh, right, yes. Should
I
also
like how we
get-
can still just go over there and be like, hey,
Hey,
awkward.
the drifter's still gonna take your money.
You
Right, is like
shall
you know
drift.
he needs
Yeah.
those motes. He's still hungry for them.
Yeah. He's a hungry boy.
His hunger thing really is starting to get to me.
I know, right?
Like,
The
not-
hunger
not-
thing is fantastic.
It's
It's
fantastic,
a
and
really
it
well
Bothers
executed example
Yeah.
of a
Like,
character
I
having
thought
a
it was-
killer.
Like, I thought it was funny, and then I was like, Bungie's kind of overdoing the joke, and then I read more of the lore tabs, and I'm like, oh, that's not a joke, is it? Oh,
Yeah.
we all thought it was a charming personality quirk, but it's not.
me. Yeah, no, there's something inside the drifter that will not.
There's some deep-seated psychosis going on.
Yeah, there's a hole in the drifter that he's trying to fill.
That's like
Yeah.
it's like almost like a Hannibal thing where it's like some shit happened to you and now you have this weird fixation with something. And I mean, I'm not saying the Drifter eats people, but I'm saying he's fixated on hunger and eating, and it's not.
I'm not
healthy.
saying I ain't saying that the Drifter eats people, but he's definitely thought about it.
Oh, he's definitely thought about it. Also, can I just note that I almost completely went, like, windmill slammed Vanguard just because when you go talk to the Drifter, he's like, you know, you step away and, like, you're a dead woman walking. And I'm like, excuse me? Did you just try to fucking threaten me? Fucking
The
fight
Drifter's
me
just basically-
IRL! Bring it, you garbage man! I'll
1v1
vaporize you. Yeah, 1v1 me. Who do you think you are threatening me?
Ready to hop in?
Let me finish putting my stuff on. Taking armaments. Phoenix Protocol. Probably not a point in doing unflinching bow aim. What shoes do we want? Bomber's fine. Take a barrier.
Actually, I should probably put on my sun bracers.
Oh, what do I want for an energy weapon? What kind of shields have we got? Actually, I'm not sure there are any shields. Where's my curated age-old bonds? You never really go wrong with that. I would bring Happy Fun Ball, but I'm kind of locked into Sleeper.
Hmm.
Because if I'm going somewhere dangerous and unknown, gonna bring my railgun. That's just how I roll.
Fair enough.
I want to be able to make some problems go away. All right.
Yeah, Laserbeaks. I'm
yep,
not
I should be
entirely
good.
sure that, like,
That's a really interesting theory.
yeah, that
I'm
he's
saying the Drifter has a worm. Yeah, that's a good point, actually.
or
I
or
mean,
that
that he
just
has.
it might just be a compulsion. Like, you know,
Yeah.
he's been through some stuff, and there is apparently absolutely no understanding of that in the last city, right?
Yeah.
And-
I mean, yeah.
Right,
They do
I mean-
not have therapists, and they need them.
I mean, at the same time, like the Drifter's kind of a sui generis case, isn't he? Like, there's probably no other Risen who was as old
I'm good
as
to
the
go, by
Drifter
the way.
Okay, let's
By the
hop
way.
around the city, right?
I mean,
And-
Saladin, maybe?
Yeah, like maybe Saladin. So you start to think like, okay, maybe this is just what happens to your mind when you're alive for however
Yeah,
many
I mean-
thousands of years.
The people make jokes about Guardians having their brains cooked by the light, but you know, that's not totally wrong. But
Right.
so
The thing is, though, that
I've sort of read ahead. I haven't done any of the quests, but I have read all of the books that are available on Ishtar, which is pretty much all of the non-data mined ones. So there's Dust, which is the 9 book. There's Ecdysis, which is fascinating, which is the one about the emissary.
Where does that
There's
one
Stolen
drop?
in- I don't know. I'm guessing
Okay.
Zur bounties.
Okay, yes.
There's
yeah.
Stolen Intelligence, which is the Vanguard book. And then there's 2 sort of Drifter and Dredgen and Shin Malfur related books. And I don't know why I'm blanking on the names. But so I've read those, and I don't know when or how those drop in game. I suspect it has to do with the Allegiance quest. So I may
Ecdysis is,
refer to stuff from those books when talking about the Drifter. So, like, kind of blanket spoilers for that.
One
But-
thing I just want to point out to chat here, we are currently inside the Drifter's ship, his home, and if
Oh
you
yeah,
run
are we
all
gonna
the
go
way
see
back
his
here,
house?
if you run all the way back here, you find where the Drifter actually lives.
And boy, is it sad.
He lives in a shipping
Yeah.
container.
He lives in a shipping container. And
there's an
eats
easy joke
beans.
here. That the only food you find in here are beans. But I also like his bookshelves. Everything else is
Yeah.
very like industrial. Very,
I'm not even
like,
sure those are beans. Maybe.
Oh my
this
god,
seems
yeah,
like
the
some.
bookshelves are gorgeous. They're
Ev-
like golden age woodworked books and bookshelves with print books behind glass.
Yeah, like this is the only. This feels
Those
like
are
the
those
only
are precious things.
decorative, cared for thing.
Yeah, I mean the
He also
Drifter
has
also
a
has this
lantern.
like really nice looking like large
He's
teapot
also got
thing.
some milk crates like he's a friggin' college student. I love it.
Right, but like everything in here is very transitory, but he cares for his books.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Like, how do you move those bookshelves? I mean, I've had to move bookshelves.
I mean,
before.
Transmat.
Not easy. Oh yeah, Transmat. Good point.
Anyway, like the easy joke is that Lol Drifter eats cold beans because he doesn't have a hot plate or anything.
I kind of picture it's not even cold beans. It's like the sort of like congealed like mystery meat that comes out in a one solid tube.
But
The Drifter isn't really any class. He's been a Guardian since well before they made class distinctions. I think
Yeah.
he's once referred to as a Warlock, but that's it.
I'm pretty sure that in the transcript of the like listening tab that you put on his ship is described as multi.
Yeah. But so, in one of the Drifter books that I can't remember the dang name of, it records Drifter's actual, like, original life from Rez.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting. And
And he was already kind of fucked up back then.
yeah, there's at least one instance of him starving to death. Almost voluntarily.
he talks
Because-
about that a lot in his in the Allegiance quest.
Yeah,
About
in
Yeah.
the
how
module logs
during the Golden Age,
during the
or
Dark Age.
Dark Age. Sorry, excuse me. During the Dark Age, there was not enough food,
Yeah.
and
And even
He wound
Risen
up
would like do a lot of like
starving to death.
starving
Yeah.
to death, getting rezzed, but like you were still hungry.
Yeah, you would wake
Ah.
up
Rest.
hungry,
yeah.
Yeah.
and you would. Yes, he would
Yeah,
starve
actually,
to
now
death,
that I
then
think
get
about it,
resurrected, and be resurrected still starving.
Yeah, I think most of the stories in his book, now that I think about it, actually revolve a lot around food, because one of them involves a small town that's made a deal with some Iron Lords to allow them to basically stay for the winter in return for a big pile of rations. And the Drifter, and
wait.
that's commented upon.
I wonder if that book is actually the counterpart to the Warlock Honor. Because that
she-
sounds a lot like the recorded audio logs that the Drifter leaves.
Oh,
for you.
maybe.
Yeah.
So you might only get that as a book if you.
The books are definitely given like third person. I don't know if he narrates the audio logs or what, but
The audio logs are like narrated by him. Like he's explicitly telling you stuff.
is he saying like I did this? Like is it first person?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The book
the
is
pages are
third person?
definitely not. Yeah, the book is.
The thing is that like once you finish the Allegiance quest on the Vanguard side, you get the last 3 pages from the Warlock Honor, which are like third-person narratives about Honor's life. They're not messages.
Interesting. Yeah, maybe it is. But yeah, the Drifters, the idea of hunger and starvation, like the Drifter spends most of his book running away from being a Guardian. He doesn't want to be a Guardian.
He doesn't want to be a Guardian. He doesn't trust his ghost.
Yeah, like he doesn't even trust his ghost. He doesn't want anything to do with being a Guardian. So, hey, look, it's Jello time. The Jello still has not set.
This is
In this
what, a
infinite
PCR
place
plate?
of infinite time. Oh god, it does look like that, doesn't it? Oh god. Memories of that one time I had to do the electrophoresis thingy. Oh man. I totally screwed my plate up.
We got a brand new capillary electrophoresis machine one year in the analytical lab, and it came in over Christmas break when our senior lab instructor was like, you know what, fuck this place, fuck you, and then like left.
Oh no.
And so it was a German machine, and I was a senior undergrad at that point, and nobody knew how to use it. But
Right.
hey, it was my lab section, and I was on that experiment. So here's the manual. It's in German.
Oh god, enjoy!
Yep.
Yeah.
And
that sounds about right, TBH.
I had to train other people in how to use that machine afterwards because I was the person who knew how to use it in the building.
So, how's your German?
I read Rilke.
Hey, you know, that's a benefit. You got something out of it. Oh god, did we get hobgoblins or vandals?
Where am I going?
No,
Help me.
hobgoblins.
Oh, I wish I brought my sniper rifle.
I am going away now. Goodbye.
Where have you gone?
Up. I went up.
Oh, up. I see. Yeah. Okay, can we just take a moment to appreciate the fact that this is called the Bridge of Folly? I'd actually rather not construct something called the Bridge of Folly. That seems.
That seems like a bad idea.
Yeah, that seems like a pointless exercise. It's
It seems
somewhat
like a
embarrassing.
self-explanatorily bad idea.
Yeah, like,
Wanna
oh
go to the
no, I'm
Bridge of
being
Folly?
propelled by the ogre. That's what's happening. The fucking momentum from the ogre eye blast, which is just obscene.
Why am I not supering?
I don't know.
Eat Praxic fire, you
Embracing Praxic fire.
punks.
Yeah, embrace the flames. Oh, Cameron, did you get the lore piece that's at the end?
Yes, I did.
Okay,
I
so
had
we
to
don't have to go get
sabotage
that.
several random runs.
I know. I felt I got it when I was on a run with 3 other people, so I didn't feel that bad. But definitely toast to your run. All right, hang on. Let's go. Get up. No napping.
But I was having such a nice dream about not being on the Bridge of Folly.
The Bridge of Folly. Oh my god, you have a dream and you are still on the Bridge of Folly, constructing it, and when you wake up, your construction's still there because it's the 9! God only knows what's gonna happen.
So
Man, I hate those dreams where like you're constructing the Bridge of Folly and then you look down, you're naked.
Yeah. And then like you go meet the 9 and then you're naked and it's just really awkward. Why
You're in
are you all the
space.
way over there? Yeah, you're in space and
I'll catch up. Don't even worry about me.
and Zer's there and it's just really awkward.
Yeah, then all your teeth fall out.
And Zur is there, but he's
Yeah,
also
and
your mom.
And all your guns are broken, and you know you're supposed to have one of them, but you don't have it, and you can't remember which one it is.
And then you have to go and do a calculus exam.
And then Oryx shows up. Ah! Stop spawning. The stupid.
I love how
Oh,
this is
big boy.
another like nice little bit of like storytelling, because they could have just had like a kill field or a wall around this room, but
it's
they actually
Shadow
don't.
Touch.
It's
Whoops.
creepy dark water that makes you shadow touched and fucks up your light.
Get out! Go away!
Don't worry, I'm almost there.
Help! Ah! Oh man, those 6/9 the damage. Yes.
Oh
please.
wow, yeah.
Give me that Solar Singe, Sundering Light. Well, it's just like toasting Dolan Karo, so satisfying.
Ow.
Okay, sir, you need to leave.
Hi. Please let me res.
Fuck off!
My favorite thing about these guys is the way that they like. You get to see what the Hive are like underneath their armor.
Oh, yeah.
Gross.
Yeah, they've just got
Yeah.
brains going on under their skulls like
Yeah.
weirdos.
Laserbeaks, you can do more damage, substantially more damage, in fact, than 6/9s, but Destiny can't display more.
Yeah.
It's just a weird, like, graphics limitation. There we go. Go to sleep.
I imagine that they're probably never going to actually fix it from that end, but they might like renormalize all the numbers like WoW did at one point.
There's not really any reason to. All right, let's.
Well, okay.
We get
so
anything?
I got boots.
Give me my stuff. Like, it is kind of annoying. There's some kind of bug right now that if you pull stuff out of the loot or out of the bank and you don't have room and it goes to Postmaster, doesn't actually show it in the little feed
Right.
before it goes.
Do we
so-
want to keep running this?
I'm fine. Give me a sec to make a new moat, but
Okay.
I'm fine, but it may make more sense for the stream to like switch to doing making progress on the Thorn quest. I think.
Well, I mean, like, we wanted to talk about the 9 as well, right?
I want
Yes.
to talk about the 9.
Yeah.
I
That is true.
So let's talk a bit about
Moats.
the
How do
9.
I make moats?
Make
Because
the
that
moat,
was-
please. Thank you.
One of the big revelations in the
Yes.
last week has
the
been
Dust Book.
yes, the Dust Book, and just Bungie coming right out and just straight up telling us what the 9 are.
Yeah, and somehow it actually makes it more weird. Okay, so like, here's the thing. I watch / read a lot of like mystery fiction, and I don't mean like whodunit crime stuff. I mean like stuff that intentionally has mystery to it. The prototypical example is Lost. Like, I was a huge Lost fan. Still am a huge Lost fan. And one thing I've learned over many years of being a big fan of those sorts of narratives is that there is a deep inherent disadvantage. It is almost impossible to ever make the answer as interesting as the question.
Right.
It is
Yeah.
extraordinarily difficult. The best way to get around it is usually just to make the answer raise more questions, but you're not going to manage to actually... Oh, wow, are we done already? All right.
Looks like it.
Bungie has managed what is, like, the virtually impossible, which is they have given us a satisfactory
Insert to like a big mystery.
like there's a big mystery we've had for a very long time. What are the 9? And we've gotten not only have we gotten an answer to it, we've gotten a good answer to it, but that answer still preserves all the alien mystery and weirdness of the 9. And I'm deeply impressed at that.
Agreed.
I don't know how many people in chat have read the Dust Book. If you haven't, I highly recommend it. It's all on the Ishtar Collective. You don't really have to worry about any sort of spoilers, because the whole lore book is available in game by now. The last 2 pieces were in the Tier 2 Reckoning. So the book is complete, and it's all on Ishtar. Okay, so, did I do the summary of the 9, or...?
I would love to hear the summary of the 9.
Okay, alright, so this is a sentence that I never really thought I'd get to say, and I'm extraordinarily happy that I get to say it, but, in order to explain the most recent Destiny lore drop, let's talk a little bit about Lambda CDM cosmology.
Good start. Good start.
Yeah,
Good start.
yeah, so,
Al.
as you may or may not be aware, Our universe is made up of 3 basic components. Well, start with 2, matter and energy. The matter in our universe is divided about, I want to say 96 to 4%. That ratio may not be right, but it's something on that order of magnitude. Between everything we experience, oh, we're over here now, aren't we? Everything we experience, everything that we are made of and that we touch and interact with, and my computer is made of, and my chair is made of, etc. Those are what we would call baryonic matter. That's because it's made of baryons. Technically, electrons are not really baryons, but the distinction is meaningless for a description like this. So let's just say baryonic matter.
Right.
Everything you see and touch and interact with is baryonic matter. And that's about 4% of the mass in the universe. The rest of it is what we call dark matter. Dark matter was originally discovered by astronomers who were measuring were originally discovered by astronomers measuring the rotation curves of galaxies. How different parts of the galaxy at different distances from the center, what speed they rotated around the core, which seems like a rather esoteric thing to pursue. But based on the physics of what we can see of galaxies, which is a bunch of stars that are orbiting around a central core that has a lot of the mass in it, we would expect those stars, we would expect the velocity to increase based on the square of the distance. So like if something is twice as far out, it should be going like 4 times, like the speed changes by 4. Which is 84%, thank you. 84% dark matter. That's what we would expect from orbiting, objects orbiting around a central gravity potential. That's how the planets work in our solar system, for instance. But what the astronomers found was quite surprising, and it was that the velocity actually changed with r instead of r squared. That is, if something was twice as far, if the distance was twice as far, then the velocity changed by 2, not by 4. And we all got squishy. This is not really something that you have an option about. Like, this is some fundamental mechanics. That's what makes this r squared versus r law. The fact that it was going linearly instead of quadratically meant that the galaxies, instead of acting like a bunch of point particles orbiting around the center, the galaxy was actually acting like a big disk, like a solid disk, like a record on a turntable, with the stars embedded in them and being carried along. And so the conclusion was essentially that the galaxies were these big disks, and that most of the matter in these galaxies wasn't in the stars. It wasn't in anything that we could see.
Right.
Hence the name dark matter. It was literally like matter that we couldn't see that wasn't emitting light.
I didn't know that was the experiment that was done. That's really cool.
Yeah, it was discovered by Vera Rubin for, I want to say, her grad thesis. She quite frankly should have won the Nobel Prize for it. She wasn't given it officially because she was a grad student when she did the work. And they had a policy of not giving it to grad students, but I think we all know the real reason why.
Right.
They did kind of change their mind about it, but at that point, she had passed away, and they legit don't give it to people who have
no
died.
posthumous.
There are no posthumous Nobel Prizes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so... Are we going again?
Let's. I mean.
Okay, let me finish my... Let me make a moat.
We'll If we're doing the activity, might as
Which
well.
some sense.
Or if we're talking
Yeah.
about the activity, might as well.
Yeah.
Because
I know, a woman didn't win the prize for something they deserved it for? Who could have guessed? Same situation with, oh god, what's her name? She discovered the Cepheid relationship. I can't remember if it was Annie Jump Cannon or someone whose first name was Henrietta. They both discovered a lot of important stuff. This is getting off our main topic, but I think it's interesting astronomy history. But the reason that a lot of early 19th and 20th century discoveries in astronomy were made by women was because collating data and looking through data was considered like women's work. Like the men did the glamorous stuff of looking through telescopes and looking at things, and the women were left to basically organize all of the data that the men took. And that's why we have a woman to thank for the spectral classification of stars, for instance,
Right.
like OBA stars, etc.
wasn't that Annie Jump Cannon?
I want to say that was Annie Jump Cannon, and in which case I don't remember the name of the woman who who figured out the Cepheid correlation, and I feel bad about that. But that was a case of the same thing. This woman was supposed to catalog all of these variable stars, and she noticed a pattern in the plates. That these certain types of variable stars had this predictable relation between their brightness and their pulsation time. So she was basically the one who was responsible for suddenly being able to measure the distance to galaxies, thus discovering that galaxies were moving away from us, thus all of Edwin Hubble's research. And to his credit, Edwin Hubble actually campaigned for most of his life for her to be awarded the Nobel Prize. But she wasn't, of course. Anyways. Point is, dark matter. So it took a while. We spent a long time crossing things off the list that we thought were maybe dark matter, and then turned out not to be. Eventually it got narrowed down to two theories, and I'm telling you about the two theories because they had fantastic names. The two competing theories were called machos and whiffs.
Right. I remember weakly interacting
massive particles.
Right.
And massive compact halo objects, which is just astronomy pun naming in a nutshell. Like, there are so many important astronomy things that have really stupid names, because I'm pretty sure astronomers make these names up at 4 a.m. when we're in a high altitude observatory and there's no oxygen getting to our brains, and they think this is funny. So I sort of follow. Oh, wow, I died.
They're all dead, Dave. They're all
yeah.
dead, Dave.
They're all dead now. We might lose this one if we can't back. Well, we don't have much of a walk. So yeah. Eventually,
Boy, oh boy, oh boy.
WIMP is what was settled upon.
Right.
Because it turns out that the name dark matter was more accurate than we knew. Not only were these particles not shining, they actually were not interacting with light.
Oh, balls.
Oh.
Yeah,
You don't fear death. Perhaps
that's very
you
Thor.
should.
Combined realms, you say?
I mean, we could back out of the activity and do something else while we talk about this. That might be...
I honestly, I'm up for whatever. I have so many powerful gear things to grind that,
I'll take a
Yeah,
stab
it
at
might-
whatever.
Like I said, it might make sense to go to Nightfalls because it'll not have a lot of story content, but it'll give us progress towards the Thorn thing.
Right.
that's
okay.
true.
Yes, let's go and do Nightfall then.
Which Nightfall? Anyone have a preference?
Not really.
I just want to know what I should kit out for.
My card was set up for Arc Singe Heavyweight.
Okay, so Wardcliffe Coil it is.
Pyramidion?
Yeah, you can toast Brachion pretty fast. Do you have all the drops?
The
Does
drops?
anybody need any of the Nightfall drops? Yeah, like Duty Bound or...
Oh, I've got them all.
Okay.
I definitely don't need any from this batch.
Okay, I'm gonna switch then to Skull Nova Bomb. Just for lulz.
I'm gonna
et
take
cetera.
loaded question.
Well, that's a good idea, actually. I should bring Jotun, because I need... No, I don't need them on here. Never mind.
I got a couple of like really neat Gambit Prime guns earlier today.
Hmm.
I'm gonna bring it over.
Oh yeah, I should bring the shotgun I got. Or maybe the sniper rifle. I got a sniper rifle with 4th times the charm and demolitionist.
So I got a
Interesting.
sniper rifle with this new perk called Firing Line,
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, what's
which
that?
means it deals increased precision damage when you're near 2 or more allies.
Oh, interesting.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah. Oh, this is good actually. I need strikes to complete this Black Armory rare bounty anyways.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, yeah, I'm good to go whenever. But yes, what was I saying? Dark matter.
Yes,
Okay.
Wimps
So
went
it
out.
turns out that dark matter not only doesn't glow, it doesn't interact with electromagnetism. So like, brief summary of the standard model of physics, there are 4 fundamental forces in the universe. Gravity, electromagnetism, strong nuclear force, and the weak nuclear force. Those latter 2 we don't really encounter. The length scales on which they act are incredibly tiny. They're relevant
Right.
on like an atomic level. Gravity, obviously, we know that one. Electromagnetism is electricity and magnetism, but it's also like basically all of chemistry, and also like most importantly, it's why objects are solid.
Right.
Like if you run into a wall, what's actually happening is like the electrons in your skull are repelling the electrons in the brick. And yes, the fifth basic force is surprise, the 5th element of the universe.
Yeah, the 4 fundamental forces like death, taxes, procrastination, and caffeine, I think.
Aggro.
Aggro.
Yeah, red aggro. But so dark matter, as far as we can tell, only interacts with gravity. All the particles we know interact like with like 2 or 3 of those forces. Dark matter only interacts with gravity. It is only mass. And this has a lot of consequences for the way that it behaves. Oh right, I never finished my summary of the universe. The third thing, besides dark matter and baryonic matter, is dark energy. About 70% of the mass energy budget of the universe is actually dark energy, which is honestly kind of embarrassing at this point because we know almost nothing about it, which we've been working real hard, but not so much with the progress on that yet. But anyways, so that's dark matter. Dark matter is the mass framework of our universe. Baryonic matter, because there's so much more dark matter than baryonic matter. Baryonic matter follows dark matter. There's an invisible, giant cosmic framework or lattice of dark matter, filaments and strands and places where they interact, so like wells of dark matter and gatherings, and that's why baryonic matter clusters where it does. When galaxies form, they're forming following these dark matter wells. So the structure of our baryonic universe, though we don't know it, on a large scale, it's very much governed entirely by dark matter's distribution. But because dark matter can only interact with gravity, it's constantly moving. It flows through basically everything. It's not just
including
something.
itself.
Yeah, it's not just something that's out in space. Like it's like maybe you've heard like neutrinos from the sun. Like trillions and trillions of neutrinos are passing through Earth right now. The same is true with dark matter. The same is probably true with more dark matter than neutrinos. It's flowing through all of us right now, but it doesn't interact at all. We can't touch it, and it can't touch us. So, because dark matter can only interact gravitationally, there's a bunch of physics I'm skipping over here, but the practical upshot of it is very hard for dark matter to clump together as closely as baryonic matter.
Really?
Yeah, so basically when things clump together, they have to release some amount of energy.
So imagine like if you have like a video game physics engine and you have gravity, but you turn off collision. Right? Things move towards
yes.
each other,
Yes,
but they
but
never hit
also-
each other, and they just keep going, and then
But-
they circle
so,
back
like-
towards each other and keep going and keep going.
If you have a system of separated particles that gravitate, and you allow them to move together, conservation of energy and momentum and angular momentum will actually want to resist that. You have to have some way to bleed off energy for things to settle down. It's like,
Exactly.
Right, okay.
like particles coming together into a nucleus. And because dark energy can only interact gravitationally, it is cut off from most of the processes by which baryonic matter bleeds off energy. It can't emit light. It can't
Right,
have
okay, yes.
heat. So we say that dark matter has a very hard time virializing or thermalizing, which is a big word for what I just told you. It's hard for dark matter to collapse together. So while a big cloud of baryonic matter might start gravitating towards itself and fall in and eventually maybe collapse into a star, baryonic matter really can't. It can't, that cloud of, why did I do that? Why am I,
Just charge into the bug zapper.
I knew that it was gonna turn on, and yet I still did that.
And
that
I just
thing
watched
which
it
I
happen.
Just did.
I just
yeah.
Because
watched
there
it
was
happen.
loot. Because
You
there's
did.
loot beyond the bug zapper.
Why didn't you stop me? Okay, anyways. So yeah, so it means that dark matter is almost perpetually in this state of a cloud or wind that is swirling around and interacting with itself a little bit. I mean, it does have gravity, it interacts with gravity, but it can't collapse. It can't
Right.
clump together. It can't form structures on a scale smaller. Nope, mistimed that. It can't form structures smaller than galactic size.
Right. Well, that's one of the lines from the book. It says
Yeah.
something about how dust forms nothing smaller than a galaxy
Yeah, exactly. And it's
or a
because
galactic
of
halo.
it's because of this non-interaction. When a big cloud of baryonic matter starts collapsing into, say, a star, it'll bleed off energy, usually by emitting light. Dark matter can't. It can't make stars. Can't make planets. So, dark matter just ain't sticky. It is kind of sticky. It's just that it can't stay stuck.
Right.
It's
So if you imagine, like, we've all seen Interstellar, right?
I mean, I haven't, but go on.
I mean, I have. I don't know if you're talking to me or chat, but
the black hole in Interstellar, right?
oh, it's a
Glowy.
good black hole.
Very glowy, right? And that's in part because it's made of a lot of stuff that has to. That would be the visualization of when we say that, or when GCU says that, matter, baryonic matter, when it gets close together, has to find some way of getting rid of its energy, right?
Okay, here's another thing. Have you ever been playing a game and you like drop something on top of something else and it keeps jiggling?
Oh,
Or like
yes,
one
yes.
time I was playing Skyrim and I killed a dragon on a hill, and the skeleton. So like when the dragons die, they turn into skeletons, right? And so the skeleton tried to fall onto the hill, but it just like wouldn't settle right. And the collision detection made it just keep like one part of it would bounce, and when that
And then the
happened,
other
like the
part-
rest of it would bounce, and it would all just keep shaking itself around and never settle down.
Yeah, video game physics systems, they don't model atmosphere like drag. They don't model.
Well, they don't. There's
lost-
no
There's no way to shed energy.
Yeah,
except
exactly.
like
That's
by
basically what
colliding.
happens with dark matter. There's no dispersion in the system. There's no way to lose energy, and so everything just keeps rattling around. It's impossible for it to settle. So after that very long-winded description of dark matter, what are the 9? Well, the 9 are the 9 planets of our solar system, which makes me deeply angry because that means that the answer to this question was literally staring me in the face some days when I was looking at planetary imagery and I didn't twig to it. The 9 are the 9 planets of our solar system, but more specifically, they are the minds formed from the dark matter shadows of our solar system. Because dark matter can't interact, it's always flowing in this big wind. Like, imagine a river. And in the river, there are stones. And those stones create eddies, disturbances in the water. And now imagine that, like, maybe the eddies could stick together a little bit, and also that you have billions and billions of years. The 9 are essentially eddies that became so complex that such complicated, self-replicating, self-perpetuating patterns, self-modifying patterns, that they approached what we might recognize as intelligence. And their minds are built in a way wholly different from ours, whereas our neurons connect and transmit information via electrochemical processes. Theirs are entirely spatial. It's all vibrations and harmonics in these huge loops of dark matter. So the planets, more specifically, the planets create the perturbations that were necessary for the 9 to find purchase in this endless stream of dark matter and to begin on a certain level. But it turns out they need life to truly become sentient, because life creates incredibly fine, complex, constantly moving perturbations in dark matter, in the mass.
Right.
The mass shadows of life moving around and going about its business.
The lore
In
books refer
turn-
to that as anisotropy. Anisotropy? How do you pronounce that?
Anisotropy.
Anisotropy, yeah.
Is that how that's
That is to
pronounced?
say-
Okay.
It is
Thank you.
anisotropy, yes.
Anisotropy.
Anisotropy means basically a disturbance.
Are we going to
It
one
is
phase
the-
Brachion?
How do
Let's
we do
try
that?
it.
All right.
We just shoot him now?
Yeah, I'm gonna drop a rift.
Okay.
Am I not?
Ah, he fucked off, damn it.
Goddamn damage triggers. But yeah,
Isn't it Brachion?
anisotropy is the
I'm wearing
It's the
transverse
quality of a
steps,
heavy-
not my lunafactions.
of
I
having
was
a
wondering
direction.
about that. Anisotropy specifically means, yeah, that it's not the same in, well, that's, yeah. But the point is that life is necessary to seed the complexity that takes the 9 from merely structures to genuine sentient minds. Okay, back up. All of this is fantastic because it gives us an answer, a clear answer to what are the 9, but it keeps them as like utterly unknowable alien beings.
It's also the sort of like super high concept, like science fiction idea that you do not see in video games
It
usually.
explains so much about them that these weird blind spots in their thinking where they seem to understand like space and spaceships and people, but they don't but then you run into something super basic that they just don't get. The 9 literally do not understand the difference between being alive and being dead.
Like,
Because
Right,
an
because
alive person and a dead person have the same mass.
They just have different chemistry.
Yeah, they literally can't see the difference, and they don't understand it because it's not a property that they know. All right, I got some gloves. So this also explains something that had been bothering me a bit, which is why, if the 9 are these tremendously powerful. Ooh, I got the final emblem. Sweet.
Oh, nice.
Oh, we should put the emblem on, shouldn't we?
Oh,
We
right.
should
Yes,
put
for
it
extra
open.
stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
If the 9 are these vast cosmic entities concerned with such unknowable things, why do they give a shit about our solar system? Or
Right.
why do they,
Yes. Yes.
why do
Exactly.
they give a shit that we're alive? Well, turns out they may be vast and cosmic, but they also literally depend on our solar system for life.
Right.
They have a personal stake in keeping our solar system around and inhabited. It's a matter of survival for them too.
Right. And
So-
I like that seems to pit them at odds, like inherently with the Cabal, who blow everything up, and the
Yes.
Hive, who homogenize everything.
Sort of. I mean, I don't
Right.
know that they really understand. I think that they would hate the Hive just because I don't think that they would be able to fight to fight back against them. Sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought.
Oh, I'm
midway
sorry.
through
I'm
that
sorry.
sentence. No, it's not your fault. My brain just shut down. So yeah, so it's a really, really good answer that manages to make the 9 still alien and mysterious and unpredictable, but we know what they are in a way that satisfies the questions we've been asking about them.
Right. And an interesting thing about the 9, like just to get into a little bit of the lore stuff, is here's the thing, right? What the Hive kind of want is this idea of the sword logic of the universe eventually becoming this one thing that is sort of,
The
homogeneous.
final shape.
Yeah, the final shape. And obviously, like, the end point of the sword logic is isotropy, right? It's this homogeneous
It's one
universe
thing.
that is exactly one thing.
I would
And so-
argue that the real final shape is essentially just a singularity. And that's, maybe the Hive don't know that's what they're driving at, but that's
Have-
what they're driving at.
You
Yeah.
would like this week's Truth to Power then?
Oh yeah, I gotta go read that.
Do you want to
I'm pumped
run
read that.
another Nightfall?
Yeah, I'm in. I'm in
All
for
right.
whatever.
Pull on your emblems
Actually,
then.
I'm gonna run my main ingredient with snapshot sites and backup plans. so
I'm gonna put
that-
on my Lunafaction boots instead of
purely for lulz.
my transversive steps.
Yeah.
That's embarrassing.
That's it. These things happen. I loved accidentally doing that in Whisper, like forgetting to switch from transversive steps to Phoenix Protocol and just wiping in the first room. Like, all right, roll up this run.
So besides the sniper rifle, I also got the shotgun, Last Man Standing.
Oh, did you get the
With-
1-2 punch?
I got the one with field prep and swashbuckler.
Oh, nice.
Swashbuckler.
I
Oh,
got
yeah.
I got opposite trench barrel. It's I don't remember. I think it's the buff is called 1-2 punch, but
Huh.
it is actually opposite trench barrel. Having every
Oh, yeah.
bullet in a shot hit a target empowers your melee,
Oh, okay, neat.
right?
So swashbuckler
Um,
is exactly like Rampage, except for some reason it goes up to 5 stacks.
Oh yeah,
oh,
and
okay.
melee kills put
Give you like all 5 at once.
five,
Yeah.
Okay, so I see some people in chat talking about scale stuff. This is actually the key. The reason that the 9 need life around, and not just the physical planets, is because they need harmonics happening at the scale of life moving around in order to seed complex thoughts. So before the planets were inhabited, the 9 existed as patterns that were
Yeah.
stable, but they didn't know what they were.
They
the
could
lore
form
calls them
loops.
unborn primordial gods.
They could form loops, but perhaps those loops couldn't like really self-alter as they went into their revolutions.
Well,
right?
they could have thoughts on a very large scale, on the scale of thickening and thinning of these planet-sized loops of matter, but to have truly complex thoughts, complex enough for awareness and intention, they need the fine perturbations seeded by life, and they also somewhat learned from life how to do that.
Yeah, the thing about life is that it's not only just fine perturbations, but it's also like countering entropy and creating like little localized effects where things are very
Yeah.
different in one place than they are from another.
It's a kind of input of complexity.
Right, right. Should I start the activity again?
Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah, for sure.
Okay.
The thing it reminds me of is, are you aware of Cloudflare's like giant wall of lava lamps?
No, but that
Oh,
sounds
is that
cool.
yes? That they use it to make random numbers, right?
Yeah, so Cloudflare is a content distribution network, right? They're basically a company that has servers all around the world, and they will
Right, they keep things from
serve.
being slash dotted, right?
Yeah, they essentially, that's part of what they do. Like a content distribution network like just has servers all around the world. So you, instead of you serving your content to people all around the world directly, they cache it for you on these remote servers to like help grease the wheels a little bit.
Right.
You know, the wheels of the internet, of the truck.
Yeah.
The thing is, of course, that all that runs on encryption, right? You need to encrypt all that data that's
Yeah,
passing.
getting an
all the way
entropy,
through the system.
entropy generator is always difficult. I have a funny story about that, but
And like
you first.
strong encryption relies on like good sources of random numbers. You need like
Right.
a way to generate random numbers that is truly random, that is truly unpredictable. And that's a surprisingly challenging problem in engineering.
Yeah.
So what Cloudflare actually has is a giant wall of lava lamps that they
Ow.
point cameras at, and they use the footage of that as a source of entropy.
Nice.
Because the lava lamps are not predictable, right? They're just like random globs of matter sort of floating around.
Yeah. Well, they're a little predictable. I mean, I could probably gin up a simulation. That many though, that's a lot. So back in undergrad, we had a group coding project, and all of us were in my dorm, so we were working on it there. And we set up an SVN server on my friend's machine. And about midway, and that was fine. Like there wasn't really latency or anything. But then about midway through the project, he moved it out of the lounge and into his room. I think for a better Ethernet port, or so he could play StarCraft. I don't remember. But suddenly, it started taking like a solid minute and a half to log into the damn thing. And as it turns out that what happened was it was a secure connection, so it needed to generate like security keys and stuff to log in. And his computer was set to use the built-in microphone as its entropy source. And so it had done fine when it was in the communal kitchen because there was always stuff making noise, but his
Right.
room was too quiet. And so
To generate.
it took like a
Proper
minute and a
randomness.
half for enough entropy to be generated to log into the damn server. So we literally had to go get a swivel fan and leave it in his room at all times on to generate entropy for the server so that we could write code.
That's gorgeous.
Right? But yes, so.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh, obligatory, and if you had only used Git, you wouldn't have.
Oh god. No, Git wasn't around back then. I mean, newsflash, I'm old. Git wasn't really a thing back then. We were on SVN. Plus, I am not to be trusted on Git. I know just enough
Nobody
about
is.
Git. I know just enough about Git to get myself into real serious trouble.
A
don't
little
make
bit of
any-
knowledge is a dangerous thing.
Exactly.
There is no amount of Git knowledge that is not dangerous.
Yeah,
Like from 0 to 100, it's all danger all the
You
time.
are always capable of deeply screwing up the Git repo. Like I know just enough to screw the repo up in a non-fixable way.
Flawless.
So yeah, exactly. So I always think it's kind of like mopping the floor. I always think that I know what I'm doing, and then I start doing it, and it ends in tears, and mop water.
Right, it's just
everywhere.
like streaks of, dirt going everywhere, and you're not sure. How do I make the dirt go away?
Or like I knock over the bucket or something, and I'm just
Yeah.
like, this was a mistake. Everything here was a mistake.
Oh, I cannot Chaos Reach Warlock.
Ciao. It's very simple. Orbs go in, laser comes out.
It's very hard to aim because of all the screen effects. I always kind of
yeah,
dislike that.
that is true. That's one other reason that I advocate geomags in basically any situation, because it gives you longer time. You're more likely
I mean, it only gives you
to
longer
hit the
time
thing.
if you're on target, though.
Yeah, true, but not quite enough to fix it. I know just enough with the Git where like I'll screw something up and I'll think that I can fix it, but I can't actually fix it. The fix makes everything so much worse.
Yeah. Basically,
we'll
every
pull you
time you
forward.
start thinking about typing in rebase, you just like then start over.
Yeah, I just don't even try anymore with Git. I don't know where I am. Oh, I think I'm back at the beginning.
Anyway, where were we? Oh, right, dark matter.
Alright, dark matter, right, the 9. So the 9 are dark matter mines, and I paused in my description to congratulate Bungie on their excellent narrative resolution to this. So that has several consequences. It means that, as I said, the 9 are invested in both the continued existence of our solar system and the continued inhabitation thereof. It means that the 9 know a lot of things and see a lot of things, but they don't understand some things that we take completely for granted. Ow.
Bruno.
It means,
Row,
Bruno,
Raggy.
we're dead.
What did you do?
Exploded.
What did you do?
a lot of scions shot at me with a lot of guns, and then I went away.
I just stood in the middle of this open plaza without cover.
And the
I
9
don't
see why
understand.
7, 8, 9. The 9 cannot see why 7, 8, 9. They do not. They do not. They do not.
They do not
understand
interact with
being.
light.
Which means that the 9 have some odd ideas about life and survival because they don't really get dying or reproduction. And that
Right,
means
they
that
they just see
there's,
those like mass
there's a-
shadows, right?
Yeah.
And sometime a mass shadow,
not just
like
not just that, because they don't experience those things at all.
yeah,
They don't. There's no concept of reproduction or making more of the 9. They exist where the baryonic matter pinches the dark matter wind. They can't exist anywhere else. Their life starts where those are, and that's how many you've got.
right. And that's why they are the 9. There's a
And
limited
this,
number of them.
Yeah, and this results in some very interesting interactions, which Cam read on the Kakitas lore tab. And
Kakitas,
maybe
I
we'll
think.
Kakitas, sorry. Which we might talk about again. I don't know if you want to talk about that.
Yeah.
But so the 9 are also excruciatingly aware that while in some respects they are invincible and immortal, they are also tremendously fragile. If the baryonic matter, if the planets go away, or life on those planets go away, they will die. And there's nothing they can do about it. They are completely reliant on this terribly fragile, these very fleeting, fragile creatures of baryonic matter for their own existence. They know that, to go back to the river analogy, if those stones are tiny in comparison to the river or in comparison to the whirlpool. But if they ever go away, that disturbance will be washed away into the wind and
Right.
dissolve.
Well,
So,
it's like us being dependent on our gut flora, say.
Yeah,
Right.
stuff like that,
if
like-
we were if our consciousness was fundamentally. If,
yeah, like
or
we're
if,
so huge compared to a bunch of bacteria, but if they go away, we can't eat food.
or if our mitochondria, right?
So, yeah. Oh, also true, yeah.
Ah, yes, the powerhouse of the cell.
Yeah,
powerhouse
the thing that we
of
all
the
know
cells.
that
Oh, I'm so sorry.
The mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cells.
The power,
The
the meme that I
mitochondria.
repeat.
Mitochondria
Everyone else is dead, Dave. They're all dead,
in
Dave.
the mix. They're all dead. You're the
Um,
only one alive, Dave.
Not even that. Like, it's such a complete like ontological threat to them. The idea of like,
Yeah.
because
They
it's not
can't
just
do
they
anything
would
about it.
die. It's like they would cease to exist, and their existence would become literally impossible.
Yeah, like they would just dissolve. So, it turns out that the Nine are of two minds as to what to do about this. And this is why, in some of the earlier tabs, you will see reference to 9, but there are only 5 voices. It's because that's one of the factions. There are 5 of them are in one faction and 4 in the other. One faction, the faction of 5, wants to bootstrap themselves into baryonic existence, both to end their dependence on baryonic mass and also to achieve even greater complexity with all of the many interactions that would then become available to them. I am... Okay, there we go. Thought
Okay,
I was stuck behind the portal
I was
gate.
wondering if you got trapped.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to do this, the Nine want to use the Traveler.
Well,
Because
so here's the thing. So there, 5 of them want to bootstrap themselves into baryonic existence. The other 4 are currently toying around with building pocket universes in which the laws of physics are more favorable to the 9. The problem with the 5 who want to bootstrap themselves into baryonic existence is that they've been trying for a while, and there's no way to do it. So if there's no way to do it based on the laws of the universe, then the thing to do is to make an end run around those laws.
Right.
And it so happens that there is a source in our solar system of what is scientifically termed complete bullshit.
And what is destinologically termed paracausality.
Paracausality.
The art of creating effects
Paracausality.
without cause.
Paracausality is the word that Bungie uses to mean magic. And it's a word that actually means something. It doesn't just sound cool. Para means like or seeming or saying bad.
Yes.
And causality is cause and effect. Something that is paracausal seems like regular causality, but it's not. It's an effect without a cause.
We
It's
should be able to
also,
one-face him now.
Yeah, probably.
okay, are
it's
you on
also
I am.
an analogy
Are you
with
on empowering?
paranormal.
Okay. Yeah.
The idea of,
Hey! Brachion! Get out here! Like, what did I come out here for? Did I just come out here so you could shower me with rockets? Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's mega dead, Asher. Don't worry.
did I stutter, Brachion?
Yeah. Let's... Oh, gift. Let me open the gift. So yes, so because the 9 can't find a cause that would produce the effect of the 9 are now baryonic, they turn to paracausality. So that it will not just produce an effect that didn't have a cause, it can produce an effect that can't have a cause, that is
Right.
otherwise impossible. And this is not new. There are a lot of references in the Book of Sorrows, for instance, of the hive gods bending the law, like basic laws, like mathematical. Oh my god, did I download the emblem and then not put it on? Yes, I did. Nobody saw that.
Do you have...
Only one person needs to have the emblem to get the effects.
Oh, really?
Really? I thought everybody.
Pretty sure.
Do
Okay.
we all have our next steps? Or should we run it?
I don't think I do.
Okay.
We
No,
don't.
I
We need like
don't.
one.
all right.
We actually
need-
need 2. One
I
more Nightfall and then a little bit more.
Let's
Yeah,
do it.
I've got 30 of 50, and I think the Nightfall gives 15.
15? All right.
So I
Yeah.
need 1 Nightfall and then 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
5 can probably be gotten from like Asher Mere Bounty.
Yeah, we can just go around and fool around a little bit on IO. So yes, so the 9 are the 5 who want to become baryonic have exhausted all regular ways and are now seeking paracausal means. Their first attempt was with the Ahamkara, that they essentially were trying to wish themselves into existence. I'm sure the Ahamkara would have figured out a way to screw that up somehow. Maybe the reason that they didn't grant those wishes, I don't know why they didn't grant the wish. Maybe it's that the 9 couldn't quite communicate to them what they wanted. Or maybe the Ahamkara wouldn't make the deal because they couldn't figure out how to screw the 9 over. I don't know.
Right, like how do you fuck over, swirls of dark matter?
Yeah, like it's maybe
Pinched
the
by
only
gravity
thing.
wells.
This is maybe the only thing that is weirder than the Ahamkara.
Or maybe my thinking actually is that it was probably
Probably what?
they probably were using paracausality to like slowly build up towards baryonic existence, and weren't able to just
they were
like
still doing research,
snap
but
their fingers, and that's
there-
why because Xur is supposed to show up in the tower after the Great Ahamkara
Yeah.
hunt ends.
Yes, so we rudely interrupted the 9's progress with the Ahamkara by killing them all.
The Ahamkara, not the 9.
Yeah, all the Ahamkara.
What-
That's when Xur arrives at the tower, because now that the Ahamkara are gone, the major source of paracausality in the solar system is us,
Guardians.
travelers, and the light. So that's why Xur, that's why the trials of the 9, that's why any and all interest that the 9 have ever expressed in us is because they need to understand light and how to manipulate it in order to get what they want.
See, I always got
and-
from the Ahamkara that, that there wasn't much intent or malicious intent in them. It's that they feed off the difference between what you want and what you're able
yeah.
to articulate.
They
Right.
like everything because like everything in the universe feeds on a gradient, right?
Yeah,
Like-
it's what they want and what you want versus what you get.
Yes. So, if there was no way to feed off of that for the 9, I think that's subtly different than.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But that's
It is
that's,
also implied, interestingly, that like Marasov is the other entity that the Ahamkara can
right,
feed on.
Yes, that's the other. So two things of great interest. One of which is canon, and one of which is a theory of mine. This is now the answer to. This is given as the answer to why Gaul got the jump on us so hardcore. I don't know if this is a retcon or was always intended. Either way, I think it's a good.
I mean,
answer,
it's
so
it's
I'll
not
go
a
with it.
retcon because it was never stated.
That's true. It was never stated that there was.
Like that's something that because like it is very common, especially like when like, a big organization like a AAA game studio to just say, there are no defined answers to why it's this, but here are some possibilities, and those
Right.
possibilities are just gonna exist like as someone's internal headcanon or in
Yeah, those are
documents
options
somewhere.
until we need to actually.
and yeah,
do
until it actually like it's like locked in for real purposes for something that's gonna be played.
Yeah. So, so the explanation given is that the 9 were aware of Gaul's plan to cage and use the Traveler's Light, and that one member of the 9 chose to hide Gaul's approach and make sure that he got the Traveler in order to study what he did to it. And the rest of the 9 were not pleased about this because Gaul was they also knew that Gaul was threatening to, blow up the sun, which the 9 also need to live. Because if the
Is
sun
probably-
goes away, the sun's mass goes away, and all the planets vaporize, and
Would the
they
sun
go away.
be one of the 9?
that is something I've been mulling over.
Because
It's definitely
I'm
not
not
stated in canon
It's
which
not said.
specific bodies
They,
are the 9.
The 9's lore tabs suggest they're just the planets. They say, we are the shadows of your world's mass. I could make an argument that the sun is too turbulent for structure to organize itself,
See, that was the
But that
question.
Also,
would-
there's no life on the sun.
but that
Yeah.
would be entirely me just making shit up.
My
There's
general
no indication, there's no
is that-
confirmation given one way or the other.
Yeah, my general thing is that like why they are called the Nine in the baryonic side of things. There's not like it's not really meaningful to say that there are 9 of them or that there's one
I mean,
of them
there
or
are
that there
definitely
are.
9 distinct entities.
Yeah, there are 9 distinct entities, but like I think the borders between them are really fuzzy. You know what I mean?
I don't know. They seem to be able to act independently, and they disagree. They definitely disagree with each other.
That's true.
So yes, Mercury is smaller than some moons. My argument with the moons is that they are too close to
To
to a much
the other
larger
planets,
gravity
yeah.
well for them to have a separate structure. Oh, God damn it.
You could say that like maybe Luna is one of the 9, because Luna's just big as
Yeah.
fuck relative to Earth.
Yeah, there are a lot of different actual specific arguments that I can make for a long time. The actual answer is that there's no canon information either way.
Yeah.
So the rest of the 9 were not pleased, and as a result, that one of the 9, the cloaked Gaul, has been, quote, reprimanded. What that means, I don't know. I like to imagine that that was the mind of Mercury, and that's why Mercury is still kind of fucked up. Because they punished that member of the 9 by sort of not killing it, but messing it up a little bit.
It's been castigated.
It's been castigated, yes.
Yeah, there's like a line which is like you do not want to know what the punishment was.
Yeah.
Something like that.
So, and mass calls to mass. Absent of further energy input, Mercury should eventually, come back together. So, maybe it's intended to be just sort of a temporary punishment, and that mind will get its shit back in order and be like, alright, fine, I won't do that again.
I won't kill the human.
Yeah, I won't take... It wasn't just killing... It wasn't killing the humans. It was taking that risk.
Yeah.
The risk
It-
of
blowing
letting
up
a
the
sun
sun.
destroyer come through in order to learn more about the light. So that's what those 5 of the 9 are doing, and there's a bunch of other really cool lore tabs, like the Cocytus one, that we can now recognize as their... Really? Really?
The 9 making like early attempts at
You
building.
just had to murder that guy before Big Happy Fun Ball could
Sorry.
even get there.
I mean,
Uh,
my own personal theory is that maybe the 9 don't refer to individual planets, but maybe they're divided in other ways. Like
Yeah,
clearly 9
that's also true.
personalities, but divided in subtly different ways than just the nine major gravity wells.
that might be
Yeah.
true, because, I mean, for instance, Pluto was never inhabited, even during the Golden Age that we know of. The general implication of the lore is that while humans traveled to the outer edges of our solar system, Titan was just about the frontier of settlement.
Yeah, what if
It seems like the asteroid belt would have been a candidate, but Ceres did kind of get blown up.
maybe
Yeah,
it's just 40
sure.
degrees of arc.
Yeah, maybe it's just huge. So...
Hold on, I'm gonna go hide behind here and explode.
So that's the canon stuff that's interesting. My theory is, I have many theories. One of my saner theories is that the other 4 members of the 9 are how Marasov shaped the Distributary, and that is the origin of the implied fundamental connection between the Queen and the 9.
Oh my god! You're
Right?
right. You're right. They made the
So-
Kiggelblitz.
Exactly. So
Wait, they
one
made the what?
thing-
The Kiggelblitz.
The Kugelblitz. So the Kugelblitz is given as the origin of the singularity that creates the pocket universe that
Right.
the Distributary is part of. So when the Mara Senna came out, when I had the full text, I was deeply annoyed because it ultimately shares this tremendous secret that Mara Sov had deliberately shaped the distributary such that the Awoken would remain mortal in order to be able to return one day to Earth.
Right,
Rather
and not
than
just
becoming-
be able to like physically return, but also like be able to empathize. I think be able to like
I think it was. I think it is
comprehend
literally
existence
physically
outside
return.
distributary.
Like I think the Awoken, because when the Awoken return to like they pop the stack and come back up to our level, they lose their immortality. I think they would have had phenomenal cosmic power and been like actual gods, but they also would not have been able to leave because their divinity was intrinsically tied to the nature of that universe.
Okay.
So I think what really annoyed me in the Maracena was that they shared this amazing secret, and they shared Captain Lee or Queen Lee's experience of shaping a universe from nothing, and even some of Mara Sov's experience awakening into the distributary. But they never show what Mara did that made that choice. What was the flaw that she introduced, or what did she change about the distributary? Or when did she even know that she was making that choice?
Right.
I think that the reason we didn't find out about it in the Maracena is because she figured out how to do it because of the Nine. Because we know that the other faction of Nine, the four that have been messing around with physical laws and creating those little pockets of unknown space that we also use as crucible matches and shit, they know how to shape. That's the whole thing they've been experimenting with. How do you
Right.
shape a pocket universe? How do you make yourself a god? Or how do you make yourself mortal?
Right. Right.
I
Okay.
think that in that pocket universe,
You're dead. Excuse
Mara
me.
met the Nine and bargained with them for the knowledge that she would need to shape the distributary. I don't know that this is sort of a further reach from that. Maybe that is connected to those 9 missing colonists. That was sort of a candidate for being the 9 for a little while, was that we know there were 900 when the Yangli wave fell into the singularity, and there were 891 when it came out the other end.
Right.
Maybe the number of missing colonists is connected, and that was part of the bargain. I don't know.
Right. I'm going to throw us back in because it takes us 10 minutes to run this Nightfall. It'd
Okay.
probably take us longer than that to do the IO grind.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, probably. So people are asking in chat. Kugel Blitz is a black hole, but formed from energy instead of matter.
Yeah, the idea, Kugel Blitz right now is a theoretical concept, and
Yeah.
the idea is that when you get enough energy in one place, especially colliding, it has the same effect as a bunch of mass, and it can form a singularity and make a black hole. So there's a mention in the book Dust. Lavinia, at one point, she's talking about the Nine and their nature, and she says that the alliance between the Nine and the Queen is deeper and more vital, I think. Let me check exactly what she says. Do-do-do-do-do.
And when you destroy it, rip its arm off for me. Make it.
No.
Asher's not the only one with a story to settle. Some taken forces may still be inside,
Where did she
searching
mention?
for a way out.
Oh, in passing, Lavinia, this is when she like fully knows and understands the Nine. She says, in passing, Lavinia sees the entire history of the Queen's interactions with the Nine, more than anyone suspected and more vital. So I think that might be the truth of how Mara shaped the distributary, and I'm hoping
Yeah,
that we
that's
maybe later in the season get some lore one way or the other.
Yeah, and another thing that kind of is notable here is that like we've heard about this idea that Xur is like
Xur?
belongs to is Xur, but also that like he
My
belongs to
favorite
this race
tinfoil
of
theory.
people known as
The
the Jovians, right?
Yeah.
And so that creates this really interesting symmetry of like the Awoken obviously were created in this pocket universe from people that got sucked in, right?
Yeah.
Maybe
Oh,
the
that
Jovians are
maybe
from a
Xur-
different, a different
Yeah.
pocket universe, and maybe that's what Xur is.
Skolas does say in his tab in the Dust Book that he says, I've walked among the Jovians, but I still don't understand the Nine. Seriously? How did I die from that fall damage? That's not fatal amounts of... Never mind. Flawless Masterpiece. But yes, that the Jovians are a separate people, a people that seems to still exist, or at least existed, you know, maybe 100 years ago or so, whenever Skolas was running around. So Xur really is, like, I was wondering for a while whether, like, the Jovians were, like, the Nine trying to make matter people or something. But no, it seems like there is a race of people called the Jovians. I have a guess about where they might come from. And they are still around, so it would be really cool if eventually we maybe got some info on them. What I find funny and also interesting is that there is a Grimoire card from Destiny 1 that gives 9 legends for the or like myths for the origin of the Nine.
For what the Nine are.
Yes,
And
for
they're
what
all
they
wrong.
are and where they... That's the thing. They're all wrong about the Nine, but some of them are real.
Yeah, some of them are things that exist.
Some of them are things that exist. Like one of them is the Nine are ghosts that passed into the deep black and meditated on the silence of the heliopause, something like that. And as Paladin Orin is pursuing the Nine, she actually talks to the 9 ghosts who went out past the heliopause. They're real. And one of the myths given in the lore tab is survivors of cis-Jovian colonies who made a pact with an alien force to survive the collapse.
Yeah.
right. That's the Awoken.
And that kind of suggests the idea of... It suggests the idea of the
Not
Awoken.
just that, what if that's the Jovians?
But what if that's the Jovians?
And their
what if the
pact
Jovians...
is that the
With the
Nine
Nine.
sometimes get to... Yeah, the Nine get to tell them what to do. And
Yeah.
Xur is serving the Nine as part of this pact.
And maybe not even like tell them what to do, but maybe they take people. Right? The Nine have been known to abduct people. That's how they got their
Yeah.
emissary.
That's
Orin.
where Paladin
That's
Orin came.
probably how they got Xur.
Yeah. So, that'd be cool. And that'd be a good way to explain, like, what the Jovians are and maybe why they don't necessarily want to hang out with the rest of us. Because they're, like, all weird and messed up and they don't want to explain the Nine.
Right.
Doesn't
Or maybe
mean,
they're just like isolation.
Maybe.
They're
well, I
kept
mean, like,
isolated by the Nine.
humans apparently have no contact with them, but Skolas apparently
Yeah.
fine. Like, they were cool with the Elixni, so... Maybe they specifically don't want humans, or maybe that's a condition of their pact with the Nine? Who knows?
Told me about your
But
fight.
I think that would
Or
be...
maybe they're just like remote and isolated, and perhaps
Hunters, the both of them.
Maybe
though
it's
they're
really
there,
hard.
they're not
Maybe
making
they
an effort.
live- Maybe they live in a deep cloud layer of Jupiter at like 50 times Earth's atmosphere, and they can't
Yeah.
actually leave without the Nine's intervention. Who knows? But that's a connection I wanted to point out. So yeah. Bottom line, the Nine are really super cool, and I'm really happy with the new lore on them.
I agreed. When
And I want a lot more.
I remember reading on Antaeus Wards, the the lore tab on that exotic that said, you know, like, are you familiar with the Gaia forms? You know, that's what the 9 are, and I'm like, no, I don't like that. I don't like that theory.
Is this gonna be some Mother Earth Gaia bullshit?
Yeah, and as it turns out, that was both right and awesome.
Yeah, and like, right, but so different from what you kind of think of. And in a way, that's the bias, is like, we would think of it, when you think of like the spirit or the mind of a planet, we kind of concentrate on the life of it.
Right.
Like, this whole Mother Earth thing is also very like spiritual and sum of all the life on the thing, and we wouldn't think of maybe the moon as having one because it's not inhabited. But
I mean, it's haunted.
yeah,
It may
moon
not be
is
haunted, but
haunted.
it is
Moon's
very
haunted.
haunted.
It is mad haunted. Moon mad haunted. But the 9 are the planets in a much more fundamental way. But also a way that we, as living creatures, are biased not to think of.
Right.
And the 9 would think of that. That'd be the first thing they'd think of. And it's like another example of how we think fundamentally differently than they do. In ways that we aren't even aware we're
analyzing live
biased.
data from your team. Brace
That
yourself.
it reminds me a lot of the 2001 Tycho monolith. That the monolith
Yeah.
doesn't teach you how to use a bone to kill a tapir. It teaches you that, or it taught the proto-humans that something exists that is not natural.
Yeah,
that you
that
can
the
have-
tools are real.
Yeah, that there is something out there that somebody made. And that doesn't tell you that you can use a tool, but it implies that your hands, or that you are capable of rearranging things in some way. Right?
Yeah,
and I
that
really
you-
like that that approach to alien life. That or that the existence of the 9 fundamentally forces us to re-examine the ways in which we think about things
I would say that
in a
the
way that is
monolith,
completely that we're unable to predict. Right?
yeah,
Right, and that's kind of what makes it a really good science fiction comic.
I
don't know
would
if you've
also
read,
argue that one of the things the monolith teaches them is not just that you can make tools and that tools exist. It's that you can assert your intentions over both matter and others. That, which is almost magic.
Right.
The fundamental definition of magic as a concept is the bridging of
The will
internal intent to the external reality.
Right.
Destiny, that's mediated by paracausality. In others, it's mediated by like magic objects or a magical gift or superpowers or whatever. But the monolith teaches technology as a form of magic. And, you know, it's Arthur Clarke, and he's got the famous quote on the matter. It teaches the apes that your will can be asserted on others. You can make this thing into what you want it to be. And you can take, like, the second thing that they do, okay, so here's a really confusing fact. I actually have never watched 2001, the movie.
Oh, really?
I only read the book. I actually, so if I quote something about 2001 that doesn't ring any bells, it may be that it was only in the book and I don't know about it, or if I say I don't remember something, it may have only been in the movie. But the second thing that happens after the apes figure out that they can use tools to, like, make meat and eat, for instance, is that there is a leopard that is terrorizing the cave people.
Right. And that
And
they kill it.
and they kill it. So that is the first time that
Nothing like that.
proto-human is not at the mercy of another entity. They are asserting their will on it. I don't want to be killed by you. I'm gonna make you stop.
Yes, yeah, that
So the monolith has taught them magic.
right. Well, it doesn't even like it's. I enjoy how fundamental it is, right? It doesn't. When I said earlier that it says like there are things that are not natural, it's even more fundamental than that because it teaches the idea that the word natural is something that exists. That
Like,
there is.
That there's a difference.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
that not only are there things that can be artificial, but that there is a concept called artificial, and that what you have been experiencing up until now is something called natural.
Right, that there are things that are shaped by unthinking forces, and there are things that are shaped by sentient intent.
Right. So what the Nine teach us is that, like, the alien life that we've encountered so far in this game, right? The Hive, the
Okay, what
Cabal,
is it?
the Elixni, the Vex, are all fundamentally kind of like, oh, gotcha, right? Like, alien bugs,
Right,
alien
they're
rhinos, alien pirates, and alien robots.
But
They
they're
all have
like
the common.
people, like
Yeah.
us.
Yeah, they all have the commonality that, like, unlike us, they're like lobsters. They just get bigger as they eat.
Mhm.
Was that everyone's thingy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Class steel plating, red war, blah blah blah. Complete bounties for Sloan on Titan. Defeat Titans in the Crucible, or complete encounters at the Blind Well. Do we want to do Blind Well? Because I wouldn't mind actually getting my offering.
Let's do our blind well for this week. That way you can get your Truth to Power entry. Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Let's blind some well.
Blind them wells.
Let me just swap back over to some stuff. Things. Okay. Okay, brain. We're gonna be okay.
So the blind well is another like really interesting bit of narrative design in this game, where, the way
man.
that it works is that once every 3 weeks, which is another completely strange Destiny thing, is the real world time conceit of it.
And this is new.
Yeah, it's new to Forsaken.
Destiny. Previously the only things in the Destiny world that have changed with time that are not like DLC related is Xur shows up on weekends or
Right.
Thursdays
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah, and things like Iron Banner being 1 week out of the month.
Yeah, like sometimes
Events.
events happen, but this is like the Destiny world around you changing.
I really
Yeah.
want. Sorry, just complete aside. I want that statement somewhere on a pin,
What?
or a poster. I think I need a poster of that in my office somewhere that just says, "Sometimes, comma, things happen," or sometimes events happen.
Events occur.
Yes, as just like a general like thing that I can look at and go, yeah, that's
Can
true.
that be like the next lure button for Card Kingdom? Causality
Yeah.
is a thing.
Yeah,
Causality effects occur.
yes, sometimes.
Not
yes.
necessarily causes. Not necessarily a cause. Not in Destiny, but
Like I love the passive
sometimes
voice of it too.
events occur.
Sometimes events occur.
Mistakes
events
were
occur.
made. Events
Are we doing the
occurred.
public event? Oh right, you need the bounties.
Events transpired. Yeah, you guys can run public. Like I'm just gonna hop over to Petra.
Right.
Uh,
Whoa, this guy's name is Terror Thane.
wow.
Terror Thane.
Wow.
I saw somebody a couple weeks ago with the name Bilbo Laggins, which was
I'm like, I didn't even have to look up to know that he.
Had the Dredgen
what?
title.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have the Dredgen seal. Like this is another choice that I wish the game would let you actively make, rather than it being confusable with you just not doing the activity.
It would definitely like be
I
really
have
really nice
earned
if you
the
could get a.
Dredgen seal.
Yeah.
I actively refuse to equip it ever.
Yeah.
I will not take the name Dredgen.
Right.
I would really love it if you could actually get a title from making the choice in one way or another.
I wish that there were an option once you had completed it, not just to like not claim the triumph or
But
not
to refuse
equip
it?
the title, but to say I will not take the name Dredgen.
Like,
Like,
it would be
that
really
would be
nice if you
really
could run
cool.
around in game with like, I don't know, what's the opposite of a dredgen?
Man with the golden gun? I don't know.
I don't know, like Cormorant, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, that would actually be pretty cool. Like, what if when you completed the Dredgen seal requirements, you actually got a choice between 2 titles, and you
Right.
can't get the other one?
Right.
Like, that's the kind of allegiance choice that I'd be cool with, because I'm not locking my character into making other choices in the future. I'm just saying, no, in this moment, I say no to this seal, and instead you get, like, Shin's Disciple or something like that.
Right.
That'd be really neat.
Anti-scope.
Yeah.
Yes. It is kind of interesting to like see Bungie kind of toying with the idea of like facts and the idea of like choose your path and all that kind of stuff.
I wish seals had. Complete aside, I wish seals had existed when Escalation Protocol first came out, because there probably would have been a seal for EP, and I would definitely have it, and I want it.
Oh wow, we're getting here just in time, by the way.
Where is... I need a button better than... Like, there's the one emblem you can get for doing 25 or more EP bosses. I want an emblem I can equip that's like, I have all the EP shit, right? I have all the cosmetics. That's how
Right.
big of a loser I am, and I want to advertise that.
If you get in here right now, they're clearing the tier 3 bosses.
Yeah, no, I'm here.
Oh, perfect.
So yeah, like I was saying, it's a really interesting bit of like narrative design here, which is that the way that the blind well works is that
Ooh,
1 week out of each 3 you can
Ah, boo.
is curse week, right? When the
Hi,
curse on the Dreaming City is at its highest, and you can go and do this activity where you kill a bunch of Taken,
Also the Shattered Throne,
also the Shatter Throne.
which is linked to the Blind Well.
Yes. Because the blind well is a giant machine.
It's a drill. The
Yeah.
Blind Well is a planar drill that runs on light.
Yeah.
And basically the Techians deliberately like made there no entrance to the Blind Well or to the Queen's throne world so that it would be safe. But then it's like, but how do we get in? It's like we have to knock down the door every time we want to go inside. And we rely on the Guardians to knock down the door. Is that a good idea?
Yeah, we'll
Sure.
sprinkle loot around the entrance and it'll just take care of itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like, no,
Basically, we are like a part of a.
we are like the hamsters running in wheels that power
Yeah,
some
like-
big contraption.
I
Yeah,
say that
exactly.
and it sounds facetious, but that's literally the way it works.
They
is
dangle
that-
loot in front of us.
Yeah, the Techians literally designed this in such a way that, well, when we need Guardians to open it, we'll just put a chest in the front and they'll figure it out.
Yeah. Guardians are extremely clever when it comes to getting at loot.
Yeah, they won't touch anything else, but if we imply that they'll get to, like, put on this tattoo.
Yeah. They'll get some cool, they'll get a cool gun.
Yep.
Doesn't even have to be like fun and interesting loot. Just put some of the really nice guns we brought back from the distributary.
We got this
and-
like box full of tiger spites still back
yeah,
in the
like,
original
we're not,
Cosmole.
We're not doing anything.
You know,
with
just
them.
just pull one out, throw it in.
Yeah. I mean, isn't that literally what Varric says about Prison of Elders? He's like, open the vaults, show them our loot, the Guardians will come.
Yeah. And again, it's part of the like little narrative consonance of this game. The idea that like, yeah, no, your motivation when playing this game,
Is loot.
motivation. Yeah.
So, I
Which
guess
is,
that might
like, an
actually...
important-
Sorry, continue.
It's an important conceit in video game narrative is this idea of this complicity or consonance between what the player wants and what the character wants.
Togashi
Like,
Naruto, I would
motivational
argue the Techians are not the devs. I would argue that the devs in the game are the Ahamkara.
I mean, no, to be completely like honest, no like game narrative or dev thinks about it in those terms. Like it's something that
No,
players
I
love.
think that's probably true. I don't mean that like literally, but
Yeah.
I would argue that the Ahamkara are the closest thing to the devs' representation. Like, you
Right.
can make wishes. They can make anything happen in the game. They have
And and also they give us
reality.
what we want, but in a
Yeah, they give you what you want,
Right,
but
like-
the game
you
feeds.
can have good shotguns, but the TK and the Crucible.
Right.
Yeah, like the game
reads patch
literally runs on the difference
Yeah,
between what
reads
you
patch
have
notes,
and what you
claw
get.
on the monkey's paw curls.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
Somebody was positing that, the Ahamkara are just worm gods, and I'm like, no, because they're actually the opposite, right?
there's definitely a relation there.
Yeah,
I don't
know
there's
what
an
they are.
axis that they share or a spectrum that they share that they are on the opposite sides. of.
I think
Because,
my theory's been that the worm gods may be Ahamkara, who found another source of food.
Possibly, yeah, that.
They
That
might have
instead
like
of
a
feeding
shared.
from desire, they feed off killing.
Uh,
In the shape of like, this is the desire to see someone dead.
goodbye. Goodbye, Nova
Yeah.
Bomb.
Bye, happy Fumble!
Like,
Send me a postcard!
my theory on it was that the worm gods take, right? That their entire essence, their structures around taking things, right? Whether it's taking life, whether it's literally taking souls, right? For
Well,
the
I would
taking,
argue rather
where
that-
then the Ahamkara give.
But see, that's the thing. The whole problem and the reason that Oryx becomes the Taken King is because the worm gods give to them.
Right.
And the Ahamkara make their bargainers like weaker than them, like subject to them, by giving them something. And Oryx says the reason that our bargain is not working, is not giving us what we truly want, is because you gave us something rather than us taking it.
Right. It was a mistake, right? It went against
So
their nature.
The worm gods do give. It's not that it went against their nature. I think the worm gods intentionally made it a gift so that the hive would be weaker. I mean, look at how Oryx just straight up killed Akka. The worm gods don't seem like the kind of creatures that would make like the hive exists to give them tribute. The hive are subject that they feed off of, the same way that like Ascendant Hive feed from the thralls who give them tribute. So
Right.
Oryx, realizing that the flaw in their wish, the monkey's paw, was that their wish had been granted, but it had been granted by a gift, was the flaw. And then taking power instead, that's what made Oryx stronger. That's what made the hive almost stronger than the worm gods.
Right.
So I'd say that they are both Ahamkara, and that the worm gods give what the sisters are wishing for, but they give it in such a way that eventually it will consume them. Oryx broke the cycle the same way that Mara, like Riven says, very few people bargain with me and win, but
Right.
Mara Sov bargained with me and won. I think Oryx bargained with them and won.
Yeah, that scans actually. I like that.
That makes sense, yeah. Because like I definitely was thinking previously that like the worm gods are essentially like darkness counterparts to the Ahamkara, but
I
that
think
logic
they're-
of like literally being the Ahamkara makes sense.
I think they're Ahamkara who have found a way to feed directly on violence, and that has caused them to grow tremendously powerful. Versus the regular Ahamkara, who have to feed on the desire of, not one person at a time, but not a lot of people. How many people are making Ahamkara wishes at any given point?
Right.
But the Hive are vast and numberless, and the worms have grown huge and well fed off of them.
Can I also just say that, like, one bit of design that I love is that the Dreadnought is this, which is the Dreadnought, the ship, Oryx's ship, which is this long square prism,
Yeah.
is literally made from Akka's body. And we've seen
Yeah.
what the worm god Zol looks like. It looks like a big worm, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, although
But-
it has been stated that what we at the end of that mission.
I
there's
have
something
a
else.
powerful hunch that if the worm gods are related to the Ahamkara shapeshift all the time.
Right.
Yeah, and
Like they can take any form.
I think the worm gods probably do as well, whether or not they're related to it.
The
So it may be that Zol just looked like that because he felt like it.
Yeah.
I like the idea that that was a worm god closer to its perfect shape.
Or more powerful. Like, Akka's not only, like, square, he's huge. The Dreadnought is immense.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
And while Zol's no shrimp, he's not Dreadnought size.
To be fair, I think that like trying to be this large within a
Yeah,
Crushing
like,
your own mass?
I think that maybe Zol deliberately made himself smaller because that would be more convenient on.
yeah, like maybe even the worm gods sometimes.
Yeah, even the worm gods have to make some concession to their surroundings every now and then. Oh, once again.
Can I
That's
just
okay.
say that it turns out that this up here, this little hanging basket, this flower basket,
Oh yeah, it turns out it's a solid object, huh?
yeah, solid object that can interrupt a Nova Bomb.
Right. I love finding out that, like, for instance, the icicles in Alton Dynamo hanging from the roof are Nova bombable objects.
Yeah.
Yay!
It's
This
research.
is
It's-
like a
it's
really- like intractable problem in the way we make the issue of like what's map geometry and what's like a physics object or has no collision on it.
it's,
How do you make those choices?
It's a fun opportunity for discovery. We're all learning things. Like the symbols in Kali's place are Nova bombable.
Which one's Happy Snake again?
The one where the snakes are talking to each other.
Right.
Yeah. They're talking to each other. They're friends. They're gonna figure this shit out.
Wow, we have to do this
They have
5
to do-
times to get through this quest step? That's insane. That's bit of a grind.
That powerful. Oh, I was about to shred that. I'm a fool. That is powerful here.
And
but
like,
I
like
do
to me that kind
have-
of like also highlights the tension because people want those quests to be like content,
Right.
but
and
often the content just consists of, you know, go do this, go do
Go,
that.
maybe that. Okay, I have my offering to the Oracle right now.
Okay, well, let's wrap up the stream by going and doing that and then looking at that truth to power entry.
Oh, that's a good idea, yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because it's quite interesting. I mean,
Um,
I say that in the same mode that I used to say back in English class, way back in the days of yore, we had something called a participation grade, where you would go to your lecture or seminar, and if you asked questions during the seminar, you got a tick mark.
Right.
And this led to a lot of people saying, like, oh, I thought the poem was interesting. And the prof would be like, thank you for your comment, tick.
That is the most generic thing you can say in any
Yeah.
kind of analysis class. or-
Yeah, so my friends and I
Yeah.
got to, like, it became a very, like, backhanded dismissal of something to say, oh, yeah, well, it was interesting.
Interesting.
He said,
Have you ever
blinking
seen the
into a
post
wall.
that was like, there's a lot to unpack here is the academic equivalent of yikes.
Yeah, we'll come back to that.
Yeah, let's stick a pin in that discussion,
And,
and we'll circle back around. Alright, let's go get told the queen is out again. I don't know why a Techian has
Yeah,
to.
and that's also
stand
like another
there. They
really
could just
interesting
put up a
choice because like,
sign or something, but
if you start playing this game now, I'm pretty sure like you don't get the Marasov conversations.
no, you don't. I thought that was Bungie's been taking a lot of risks lately. And
Yeah,
I'm
they
fascinated.
definitely
like,
have.
the
Like
FOMO,
the
it's interesting-
entire idea of killing off one of their most popular characters, that's a huge risk.
Yeah.
Um,
It does save a lot of money on Nathan Fillion.
I mean, yeah, but I'm pretty sure Nathan Fillion would have kind of done it for free because he likes hanging out with Bungie, and Bungie likes hanging out with him. Like, there's a reason he's in
Also, like-
ODST and everything.
A AAA game, like hiring Nathan Fillion to do 20 hours of voice work. Must be on the order of like.
It's
few
definitely like
days
a
of-
joke that they killed Kate because
Oh.
of it's not
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
the case.
But the other risk being that there is now content that some people can't access.
Right, and
Yeah,
the
of
FOMO with
course.
this
Like,
game was already
the-
quite
They
strong.
can watch it. They can watch it on YouTube, but it's a risk.
Yeah, it is in fact gone forever, and like
Fun
there
fact,
are parts of this game that are just
That's not a solid
ephemeral.
object.
Blink is not active here, as it turns out.
Oh yeah, you can't. Oh wait, really?
I cannot
you
blink.
You can double jump. It's not like the tower. You can't
This is
blink.
just anti-blink discrimination.
Yeah, it is. No
Wow.
teleporting allowed. Queen only teleporting.
Only
God,
the queen
I love,
is allowed
I
to teleport.
love this. I love all this scenery. How many episodes of Stargate Atlantis do you, Marisol,
Okay.
watched on the Yangli Way?
Actually, curious question. Is this extragalactic? What are we looking at here?
This could be a galaxy. I think that they're probably trying to imply that it is dust bands like that. Like, the problem here is the problem that shows up in a lot of astronomy, which is there's just no way to measure scale or distance.
Yeah. We also don't know how we're oriented. Like this could very well be just like the Milky Way, and we're
It's
just pointed towards it.
probably not the Milky Way.
Do we
The
know what the
Milky
Milky Way
Way-
looks like yet?
So, we recently figured out that it probably does have a bar rather than just a plain spiral.
Neat.
It is a deep challenge, but we've had a lot of good star surveys, like automated survey satellites up there that have been measuring very precise distances and proper motion. It turns out Alberio is not a binary, it's just a visual binary, which means I've been lying to school kids for like 5 years. Just, side note. Whoops.
Liberal elite.
It's not.
This
It's
is-
not lying if you believe it.
This is probably not the Milky Way unless we're very far away from it and that dust streamer is far in the foreground. It doesn't have enough structure to be the Milky Way. But yeah, this is the classic problem in astronomy. It's like a dim bulb that's close to you looks the same as a bright bulb that's far away.
Right.
One of the greatest challenges in astronomy and one of the advances that has always unlocked the greatest discoveries is how to measure distance. It wasn't until we understood it wasn't until we were able to measure the distance to very distant galaxies via Type 1a supernovae that we discovered dark energy. It wasn't until we discovered the Cepheid relation and could measure the velocity and distance of nearby galaxies that we figured out the universe was expanding at all. Actually, it wasn't until the Cepheid thing. Are you okay?
I just love how delightfully like
Are you having fun? Let me
it's
just,
it's like
No.
just like holy shit! Look at these stars.
yeah, look at this freaking stars.
Look at
this
this
shit.
poster she's got up.
I know, right? I love this episode.
Turns out,
This is like a really good. This is a really nice skybox.
yeah, it
It
turns
is.
out this
It
is
is
just
gorgeous.
like the world's biggest wall scroll.
Marlon. I mean, I really
Like
do.
there's a
I'm
light
serious
switch out
about-
here.
I
If you
appreciate.
switch out the lights, it glows.
I appreciate how beautiful Mara's throne world is because the Awoken are space elves in the sense that their stuff doesn't have to be beautiful,
But they like
but
it.
they make it,
Yeah.
and it's important to them. But yes, it wasn't until we figured out the Cepheid thing and could actually measure the distance to other galaxies that we settled the question of whether we lived in a galaxy at all.
Really?
Because I know it's really crazy to think about, and if you want your mind blown further, consider that until the 60s or so, we didn't even know that the universe had a beginning. The Big Bang Theory was not in any way confirmed, and everyone just assumed the universe had always been and would always be.
Right.
So, like, people had to get their heads around the idea that the universe had a start. That was a big one. But there's no way to tell whether the galaxies that we can see, whether they are gigantic objects very far away or small objects pretty close.
Right.
The
Right,
theory,
like
they were
the
originally
classic example
called-
of this is how the planets look exactly like stars, and the only thing that distinguishes them
Yeah, is that
was
they
just how
move.
fast they move. Yeah.
The galaxies, things we now call galaxies, were often called spiral nebulae. Because they kind of looked like nebulae, like the Orion Nebula or something, but a lot of them were kind of spiral shaped. They were spiral nebulae. The whole Messier catalog, the
Right.
reason that includes like the Crab Nebula and also the Andromeda Galaxy is because it was originally a list of smudges in the sky. I kind of mean that literally. Because it was a guy who was looking for comets, and the way you tell comets apart from stars is they're kind of smudgy.
Huh.
And he kept seeing the same smudgy thing and being like, all right, I'll come back tomorrow night and see if it moved, and that's how I'll know it's a comet. And then he'd come back and be like, God damn it, it's the Crab Nebula again. But he didn't
Right.
call it the Crab Nebula because there was a drunk guy who named it the Crab Nebula. That's another story. So he made a list.
I mean, it does not look very much like a crab.
No, it doesn't look like a crab at all, okay? And even the guy who named it the Crab Nebula went back like 2 years later and looked at it and was like, yeah, okay, it doesn't look like a crab at all. I'm not
It's the best
kidding.
story about
He
astronomy.
was this like rich dude who had like a 24-inch telescope in his backyard, and he observed the Crab Nebula, and he drew a picture of it, which kind of looks like a really skinny pineapple. And
And he said, like, that
"Oh, it looks
crab.
like a crab," and he showed it to all his friends, and they were like, "What do crabs look like where you come from? That's not in
Right.
any
It's
way."
like, a crab. A crab. They swim
A
around
crab,
in the
you're like-
ocean. They've got a bunch of tentacles on one end,
Yeah, and, it's
and they
like,
change
that's
colors.
No.
Crab.
And so the same guy re-observed the Crab Nebula 2 years later or so, and was literally like, "Okay, yeah, it's not."
No, I see
And
what
it's
you're
called
saying.
the
I see
crab.
what you're saying.
Yeah, it's like
Like,
when you
welcome
forget the
to
name of a
naming
lemon
places
Danish and
astronomer.
call it an apple crustamole. Right? Like,
Is there a word for those
aphasia.
descriptions?
Just, I guess it's a
No,
kind
no,
of
no. Is
aphasia.
there a word for the descriptions people come up with when they can't remember the name of something? Like malapropism is a thing and spoonerism is a thing. Like, is there a word for that kind of phrase where you can't remember what the thing is?
I can't think of one, and I'm a professional writer, so I'm going to say
Yeah,
there.
there should be. Because one time my mom blanked on the word for smartphone and waved her hand in the air and said, "Look it up on the little internet."
Right.
The little internet, I love
the
that.
little internet, which
The
is
little internet.
perfect.
I love that phrase because it can refer to, also refer to like,
Bread is raw toast.
it can also refer to like, raw toast is great. Raw toast is fantastic.
But yeah, now I've gotten completely distracted. Yes, the point is that until
The little internet is where you go to little death, I guess.
yeah,
Um.
no, nuh-uh, I don't want to know what you're doing with your smartphone. Leave me out of that. But yeah, so until we could confirm how far away galaxies were, we actually didn't know whether those nebulae were part of our galaxy, or like whether we lived in one object and then there was empty space
Right.
and another object, or whether we lived in just all the universe was like this.
Okay. Right.
It's like, were those separate things? Did we live in one of those? Was the universe like these islands in a vast sea and not just this homogeneous place that we happen to be in? So yeah, that was like 100 years ago that we finally figured that shit out, if you want like a benchmark for how drastically our concept of existence has changed in the last century.
Yeah, the 20th century turned out to be kind of a big one.
Yeah, it was a lot. Like, okay, here's another one. Wasn't until the 60s that people believed plate tectonics.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Right.
Yeah, everyone.
That's
called
what
it
I was
too
very like.
crazy.
You get like that real like, the little like brain pain when you realize
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, like
Or that you just realize, like, hey, what's up, brain? It's like, don't ever forget,
Yeah.
the First World War was fought before we invented antibiotics.
oh,
Oh yeah, and you're just
Like-
like you're just
like-
sitting there.
Like, oh,
Yeah.
wow, yeah.
I guess I should probably
Yeah.
get this actual lore thing. Oh, I got a retold tale. Another one.
Oh yes, we should
Three-
actually like read the lore
That's
tab.
like 3 in my postmaster that I need to decide whether to shard or keep. Okay, so I haven't read this yet.
Lethologica, the inability to remember a word. Interesting. Literally, is that literally like word death?
But not just forgetting a word. The way
Lethologica
that
from
you-
Letha, like to forget.
Yes, to
Yeah.
forget.
And,
right.
Is
the
there-
river
words.
in the underworld.
Yeah, but not
Yeah.
just for forgetting a word. Is
But,
there
like,
a word for the
introducing-
phrase you came up with?
Yeah, a circumlocution would be a word that you use, but that's
That's not
the-
bad.
that doesn't apply.
But that's not its definition.
That's not like specifically that situation. It's like any case where you're like talking around a word.
Right, like this is, you have forgotten the word that you're looking for, and your brain has developed a new word that you use
Yeah, it's sort of
without
like
pausing to analyze
manufactured
it.
a Buffyism for to say it.
Yeah. But yeah, like this
Oh, hey, speaking of dark matter.
exactly, right? I thought
And
this
dark
was quite
energy.
interesting. This lore tab. It's called You Must. Dulin Karu serves you poison in a fine tea set of Ahamkara bone. Now you've received my mother's message, she says, but I must admit it is all a fabrication. I've written it hoping to know my mother, to capture her true motives, to speculate upon her designs as the greatest worship. She sighs heavily, a sound like a scream up a pit, as she sets the teapot down. We, her children, are all left to speculate on the great questions. Does she love us? Do we make her proud? Would she hesitate for even the tick of a plonk moment before she sacrificed us in some cosmic design? Now drink, and as you die and are reborn, I will reveal to you the destiny she has realized for you, the right and singular fate to which all your principles and purposes will bring you. To drink the poison, continue reading. I really enjoy this conceit of this, like, choose your own adventure style.
Except you don't really have a choice.
Yeah, there's no choice. It is like, I do love how they're like playing around with second person narration and the like interaction of like a player to the game, and the way that this is contextualized in a video game, and the way that you, even though this is text, you could not write this in a book.
Right.
I have many thoughts on this entry, but continue.
It tastes of bitter regret and psychosis sweat, a poison to end the thoughts of human, neo-human, or machine. You see the cosmos before you like a spiderweb of light. Filaments of galactic superclusters shine in the clouds of invisible dark matter, which glue their mass together. Dark energy yawns in the space between all things, ever growing, ever spreading. Life arises. Life spreads, to contest itself and changes. Great things are built and destroyed, but from your vantage point, you see that the victor of each struggle contains, in its negative, in the marks left upon it by the loser and the shapes it assumed to win, the master record of all that it has beaten. Information may not be erased. Whoever survives until the end of the cosmos will possess and remember all which came before it. This is true even of the devouring black hole, which remembers all the secrets it eats. It will only confess these secrets when it evaporates. 10 billion, 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 billion,
Probably a
billion,
Google,
billion,
I'm guessing.
billion years from now, long after the last stars have flickered out. You are a guardian. You must protect light. If all life is information, and guardians strive to preserve life, and information is preserved when it is secret, then you must convert all life into the most secure form of secrets, durable to the end of time. You must cast all the life you cherish into a black hole.
You know what this reminds me of?
What?
The Vex.
A little bit.
A little
I
bit,
have
yeah.
many
Right?
thoughts.
Isn't there that spin file theory that the Vex are like they're people that have been converted into information as a form of safekeeping.
I think that's my theory.
Yeah, that's
That
your
Rasputin stashed them there.
yeah.
But
I'm still on the theory of like alt future timeline Rasputin creating the Vex. But yes, so
I do love the like all caps. You must cast all the life you cherish
must.
into a black hole.
yes,
Do
it's
it!
perfectly clear now, don't you see?
like, don't you get
Into
it?
the
Yeah.
black hole.
It's
So,
it's the only way. It makes
it's-
sense.
It's my job to have thoughts about things like this, although usually not as fun. But I don't even have to do any math for this. So this is reasonably accurate and is touching on a very serious paradox that came up when the existence of black holes was first posed and potentially proven. That the existence of black holes implied the erasure of information and quantum states, and that is not supposed to be possible. The resolution to this is in the form of Hawking radiation, which supposedly might, these are all might, like while we have detected black holes, we certainly don't have one that we can go poke around and actually measure the Hawking radiation from. Because Hawking radiation is in the form of sort of a stream of random particles.
Right.
But that the information consumed is re-emitted in the form of Hawking radiation. There's another theory, the hologram theory, that everything consumed is imprinted on the event horizon in a way that time slows down as you get closer and closer, and that from the outside the object will never appear to finish falling in, that its image will be captured as a hologram, as in like it's a 2D surface that is projecting a 3D information. So Dolan Karsgat is correct about, well, she's correct that there is a theory that this is a law, that the information has to be conserved.
Right.
So I guess in the Destiny universe that is true.
I mean, that's Dolan Karo saying it, so it might also just not be true.
Right.
She might
but
just also be telling us the whole because she's Dolan Karo and she's kind of a dick.
That's true, but I think they are just, it's a theory, but technically so is gravity, etc., etc. But yes, it will only confess those secrets when it evaporates. Is her saying black holes evaporate? They do evaporate. They will eventually go away. They do this by emitting Hawking radiation, which is energy, and so they will, drip by drip, radiate away their mass energy in the form of Hawking radiation and will eventually dissolve. I think the timescale for all black holes that will form in the universe to evaporate is about 10 to the 120 years, although I might be crossing that exponent up with the number for dark energy, so that might not be true. But it's a long friggin' time.
Right.
You must, there are logical fallacies in here, in which I can point out. And I would also say that this ties in with what I said earlier about the final shape being a singularity, being an object which exists to exist and has... You could argue that the very concept of use is contrary to the sword logic, because to be of use is to expend resources on something other than existing.
Right. It implies a
something-
relationship,
or something
which
other
implies
than
that something
yourself.
else exists.
But it is also, it is a weakness. You are wasting energy on something that is not existing, and existing is all. And so you will eventually be destroyed by something that commits more of its resources simply to existing. And I would argue that the true final shape of that is a singularity, which is no shape at all. This is the ultimate
Like
self-contradiction of the sword logic.
A dimensionless point.
Yeah, it is that it is folded back in on itself. It is an Ouroboros that has perfectly wrapped around and does not. It exists to exist. That is it. That's all it is. And therefore, this pinnacle of creation in the universe is absolutely nothing. It does nothing. It is nothing. It just exists. Similarly, this is saying information is preserved and it is secret. You must convert all life into the most secure secret. You have to throw everything into a black hole. You have to make it a singularity. You have to compress everything and protect it and curl up and armor up and be as compact as possible. So this is in keeping with the sword logic, and I think it has the same flaws. Also, in a total tangent, this is just me, but I've considered the concept that she mentions earlier about the victor of each struggle contains in its negative and the marks left upon it the master record of all that it has beaten. That is kind of literally true in Rasputin's case, because we know that he is built around a neural network, and neural networks are created by evolving them, by forcing them to evolve. So in theory, a neural network contains a record of every version of Rasputin that failed or won or was deemed better or worse. Like, not only the network that won that generation, if you're looking at it as like a genetic algorithm, the one that won that generation, but all the ones that lost, and how it won, leaving its mark on the next one and the next one and the next one. So that in theory, if you are a Rasputin and you have a whole lot of goddamn time on your hands, you could ultimately trace him back to the first seed of his existence.
Right. There's no entropy source, because that's what prevents chemical systems. And my undergraduate was in chemistry, for people in chat. That's what prevents systems from being like deterministic, right? Is that things
true.
are moving around in ways that are fundamentally unpredictable.
But there's also, I would argue that Dolan Carr's statement is only true for beings like Rasputin, because for me, at least, if you were going to sum life as information, it would probably be a DNA thing. But DNA explicitly doesn't really, it doesn't record your life. Like, that's kind of the Lamarckian thing.
Like, DNA doesn't record shockingly little about what, like, the phenotypical expression of something actually is.
But although, on the other hand, you can look through DNA and recover some history of evolution and mutations, and that may
but
be
it doesn't
like
tell
the
you anything
shapes
about
it assumed to win.
It
Like,
doesn't tell you
this was
about
the winning shape.
It doesn't tell you about the organism, right? For that, you need to have memory, right? And memory is not terribly reliable.
I would argue that it's literally true in the case of someone like Rasputin, who doesn't have a DNA that's like randomly recombined. Like, what he is directly shaped by every interaction or moment of his life, as it were. It's not something that gets randomly recombined and sent along to the next generation, and then maybe it does a little bit better, etc., and like evolutionary pressures force it one way or the other. His neural network is directly shaped by what it encounters at every moment. It kind of evolution without randomness, if that makes any sense.
Right, evolution
Although I guess
is
there
kind of
is
like
still an element of randomness in most like neural network evolution type algorithms. I'm sort of thinking out loud here, so I may be talking now.
I should probably actually wrap up the stream here. We've been going for...
Oh goodness, it is a bit late, isn't it? Okay.
So I want to thank both GCU and Bruno for being guests on this stream.
Yeah, no problem. As I've said before, I will literally talk about this as long as you let me.
Yeah,
and
I'm so grateful
I certainly have like a lot of opinions about how Bungie has been approaching like June's story in this like year two of Destiny world.
I have opinions.
I'm tremendously grateful to be able to draw on your experience. So thank you very much for being here. I need to thank subs, so I'm going to meet myself on Discord.
All right.
But if you want to
I
draw
will.
Alright.
links to your social media or your own home streams, please do so
yeah, I
in
guess
chat.
so. I'm a terribly inconsistent streamer, but if you want to talk about lore, come on by.
All right,
We will
well-
talk about everything.
Yeah, please drop that in
Uh,
chat, and yeah, maybe
If you want
hopefully
to
people
talk
will
about
decide to check it
lore
out.
and watch someone be bad at PvP, I am your one-stop shop.
All right.
Okay.
Well, I'm gonna drop out of Disco, and then I'm going to
Uh,
thank subs.
Yeah, you
go
can actually. Cam?
Yes.
Okay. No, I was just like going to say I'm going to drop my own links in chat. Is it okay if I drop my
You're what? You blanked there.
itch.io on
Yeah,
chat?
sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh,
If
that's
you-
right. Bruno makes.
I am a game developer. Yeah.
He
If
makes
you.
game. So
Uh,
he actually has professional experience on talking
I,
about
I
game
have.
design.
I am an expert. Like my work is actually. I wrote a chapter for a textbook about narrative design this year, so that's gonna be a thing.
Neat.
I will drop those things in chat if you would like to check out my work, and or my terrible opinions on Twitter.
All right. Well, okay. Well, thank you both for being here, and good night. And I'll catch you in game later, maybe.
Yep.
All right. Peace.
Thanks for having us.
But let us thank subs, and much appreciated to everyone. Holy crap. Okay. Well, people were happy with this apparently. Fruin came back for the 1 year. The 1 year. Mathenween came back for the 10th month. I'm catching this live, so happy. Brain Bosch for the 25 months. Thank you. Luminaire P. Hey, thanks, Lumi, for 28 months. Best to you on this lore stream. James Snore for 36 months. 36 months? Those months came from the moon. Twilight Avalon for 21 months. Greetings, Dr. Cam. The Drifter could be one of the most interesting, compelling NPCs in Destiny currently. Even more so now that after some of the new information we've learned about him, like his age. Yeah, it pains me to admit that the Drifter is actually kind of cool. I think he's... I don't trust him, but I think he's an interesting character. Mnemonic Man for the 11th month. Sub Baby, almost compiled. Miguelino 164 has come back for the 24th month. Oh man, 2 years? That's almost 24 months. Dusk Shine for 63 months. Woo, Destiny 2, a flawed but ultimately fun to play game. Yeah, that's basically my opinion on it too. Fortune Rota for 51 months. Thank you. Spectrum 14 for the 15th month. Malix 1 has come back for the 10th month. Thanks for everything you guys do and for being entertaining for the last 400 years. Yikes, I believe it. Not Kane nor Abel has come back for the 8th month. Extreme Blue Shift. Sable Drake for the 7th month. Just gave up trying to get past the last step of Thorn solos, so I may watch you play D2. Well, welcome. I hope you're able to find a group for it. Cat and Raster came back for the 25th month. Oh, heck, 25 months. Eboera is a brand new sub. Hey, welcome to the channel. Thank you very much for deciding to support us. Astral Apache for the 39th month. Nothing quite on brand as Destiny and Physics. Dix! Hey, Dix has come back for the 67th month. Heck yeah, Science plus Derpstiny talk. Eblock. Oh, excuse me. Came back, or gave us 641 bits. My brain hurts a little, but I'm into it. My opinion, as always, exactly the same. Romanian Myescaton has come back for the 46th month. Normal brain, big brain, brain composed entirely of dark matter that defies all conventional knowledge of organic life. Literal galaxy brain. Killer Palm has come back for the 9th month. Watch the skies. Hashnell Endot has gave 95 bits, saying ass. Prof Blasson has just subbed. Hey, thank you. Maybe it missed your streak. I don't know. Newfer came back for the 25th month. Looks like it's time for Sapiences with orthogonal priorities to ours and chill. Dandenstorm for the 60th month. What's up, Cam? Hey, chat. Skirbo Dies to Bears has come back for the 18th month. I've been working too much to tune into many streams lately, but I love that I catch the tail end of Talking Sim. Forced reject. For 31 months, the contents of the acid sac that is my stomach have been wanting to exit my body for several hours, but wanted to drop by before nesting back under my blankets. Well, thank you very much. May we come in for the 22nd month? Thank you. eBlock gave 150 bits. Thank you, Cameron, and everyone for the stream. And another 100 bits from eBlock saying thank you for all the thank you for the fascinating stream. Well, thank you for the bits. And GCU, of course, I still love you, came back for the 50th month. Wow, what a great stream. Too bad those weird commentators kept talking the whole time. Good night and good luck. Well, thank you very much for being here. So, yeah, that concludes the Loading Ready Run broadcast day. Oh, not Bruno again, just resubbed for the 27th month. I agree with the other sub, the guest just detracted. Well, I'll take it up with them. We'll have a meeting. What do you say you bring to this stream? What do you think you bring to this stream? Tune back in tomorrow morning. There will be more things up next. What's our up next? Oh, look at that. We have a button. Starting tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Pacific, over on twitch.tv/magic, Graham and James will play Magic the Gathering. Then on Let's Nope, Ben and Adam will play Nevermind. Good album. And on AFK, join the Lurfolk for more Pandemic Legacy. Will they save the world? Well, let's hope. Anyway, that's it. I'm going home. Bye everyone. Good night. There's a